Hello, hello, my lovely human, and welcome back to Women When Fueled. Today's guest is someone whose story will leave you inspired, uplifted, and ready to take bold steps toward your own dreams. The amazing Tiana Ferrett. Tiana is a balanced body-trained Pilates teacher, the owner of a thriving boutique Pilates studio, and a woman who has transformed her passion for movement into a platform for empowerment and healing. Her journey is a masterclass in resilience, courage, and stepping into the fullness of who you're meant to be. Tiana's ability to build a community centered around strength, connection, and self-discovery is nothing short of magical. From navigating big life transitions to overcoming limiting beliefs, she embodies what it means to trust the process and embrace the next right step with grace and intention. Before we dive in to this incredible conversation, as always, a quick note. Women When Fueled is for connection and entertainment purposes only and is not meant to replace professional advice or your lived experience. Episodes may include light conversational cursing, so please take this into account when choosing when and where to listen. In today's episode, Tiana opens up about the feelings behind her manifestations and how she listens for divine guidance, overcoming imposter syndrome and breaking free from self-doubt, building meaningful connections and starting over with purpose, and turning her dreams into reality while learning to surrender to the flow of life. Tiana's story is a powerful reminder that even in moments of uncertainty, we can create something extraordinary when we trust ourselves and take the next right step. Get ready for a conversation filled with heart, insight, laughter, and inspiration. Let's dive in. Welcome to Women When Fueled. Right.
Yay. But yeah, that's
so
funny.
The original topic that I thought of for there are so many, let me try this again. The first season of this, I was very picky about who I wanted to talk to because I wanted to invite into this space. Oh my gosh, that cow in your water bottle is so cute. Welcome to my ADHD brain. I'm like,
I love
cow?
it. I love it.
But people that I already am in practice of having really deep conversations with and people who are so open to genuine connection before I start trying to invite people that I've never talked to before.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, I wanted people who were genuinely inspirational to me.
Man,
and
it makes me feel so honored.
Who I see so much light in and I want to share the light of. So I'm so thankful that you're here. And you'll hear it on the other episodes if you decide to listen, but I am just so honored to know you. And I'm so thankful that I brought you that stupid plant and juice one day and that it was just this kismet connection of love and light. And I'm so thankful to you for being so open to receive and give love in this relationship. And I am so thankful to know you.
Straight up ditto. Okay. And I still remember that day. And it was one of the, I think you were one of the very first people to even even introduce yourself. I don't think anyone's ever just come into the studio and been like, hi, welcome. And it felt very genuine too. It didn't feel like this weird sneaky thing that you were trying to oh, another Pilates studio in town. Let's see what's going on. And it was just we'd kind of went back and forth on Instagram and sent a few messages. And I was like, oh, she's so cute. Oh, look, she has her little pregnant photos up. And look, now she, now I know your babies. And I'm just that's crazy too. But I think you being so real and sweet when you came in, I'm like, you can't not just reciprocate that, you know? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to stay and be as vulnerable and open with her as I can too, because that's just kind of how I am. If I know somebody and I can trust them, in the beginning, I'm like, you have no reason to not trust them. I'm like, of course I'm going to be super open. And I think I was that way too with my friend Jade when I first moved here. I was just so open. She goes, wow, you're just really letting me know everything. And I'm just well, that's just how I feel. And I don't want to I feel if I don't tell you, I kind of feel I'm hiding something or I'm lying. And so I'm well, this is just really how I feel. Today I'm actually really tired, or, today I have no ideas of what to teach, but I'm just going to roll with it. Or, whatever, I didn't get sleep last night, or there's something that's just, even a deeper issue that I'm like, I just need to share this with you. And like, it should be something that maybe I don't even tell anybody else because, you know, they're, you know, whatever, they might steal the idea or they might whatever. And I'm like, I need to be so open, like, and I know I can be that with you and share anything and everything. And you'll not only look at me with your cute little baby doe eyes like that, but you'll just like, you make it be like, okay, like no matter what, like, okay, well, this could be an issue. Let's figure it out. Or do you just need to talk about it and I just need to listen? Is that all it needs to be? So some of my like fondest like memories is like when you would just come in, we'd just be sitting at the studio. There'd be the day that it just was raining and we just sat there and we like looked at the rain and like listened to the cars drive by. We even opened the door and just like smelled the rain and didn't say a word and like just sat there. But then all of a sudden a good song comes on and then we're like, oh my God, I get up and you
like,
start
so
dancing.
should we dance?
And then all of a sudden we're doing twirls and then you're like, interpretive dance, like let's go, and just spinning all around the room. And then it was just like laughing and then, okay, so anyway, how's the rest of your day? And then it just like got back into like just this normal thing. But for somebody to kind of just be on that same like energy, like wave with it and not think that I'm weird and not think that like, you know, like, oh, what is she doing with it? Whatever it is, like there's always like a feeling of judgment, I think, when you're trying to create something that like maybe it's not for everybody, but I also have to be okay with that. And I think that you really did bring that too. The fact, we could sit there and like meditate together again, not say a word and just sit in the room and like be in each other's like space and company and energy. And it feels so genuine. So thank you, for just existing in this world.
Just gonna cry
I love you.
all over everyone.
I know.
Constantly.
Thank goodness this is not a video.
In general. Yeah, I know. I gave up on videos for season 1. Every single time I tried to record a video, just something went wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I putting energy into that when I could put energy into you and like instead of like worrying about what's going on? And I got a new fancy camera for Christmas. Julian was very kind.
Julian.
And that was like a surprise gift that he's like, what do you think about these? And I was like, wow, those are really cool. I wouldn't do that for myself. And like, I've seen them and I've considered them, but I just can't justify it. And opened it up on Christmas.
He's like, well, I can.
So for season 2, there will be video, I think. But for now, I'm just,
cool.
you know, it is
well,
what it is.
I'm happy with that.
Right.
Hot with no makeup
Same
today.
series,
Been
like,
working for a minute.
I'm gonna weep. But there is this gratitude that I've been feeling since just kind of before Thanksgiving. I hit, because 2024 was kind of rough, mental health wise, and being forced to press an emergency reset button in my life was something that I never thought I'd have to do, something that I didn't realize I still had more breaking to do and heal from, so that I can go forth and really authentically present myself to society, like be happy with myself at a core level, and then not have these other wounds in the background that I'm like kind of trying to hide in the closet. And because I could outwardly do all of these really great things, but I know that I'm pushing too hard. I know inside that my house is a disaster and I can't keep it tidy because my brain is too many places. I know that I didn't sleep enough last night because I'm having some kind of mental episode. I know that my finances aren't fully in order. I know all of the, just when there's too much under the rug, it's no longer unnoticeable that something's under there.
It's a little lumpy.
There's a mountain under there. It's an elephant hiding under a rug.
What a cute mountain you have.
What a cute little hill you've created. And I finally hit this place of looking around my life and seeing friends like you and seeing friends like Hannah, Steph, and this other group of girls that I have grown so close with.
And I feel so lucky to know all them too. I'm like,
I know.
Yes.
And my partner, and like this cute little life I have. And looking around it, and instead of wanting more from a place of this isn't enough, wanting more from a place of, wow, look what I've created so far, and just bawling.
I know.
And
we need to remember all of those things too, because for real, you get to a point, you're like, okay, great, like now I already did that thing, like next, and you're like, what's the next thing that I need to do? Rather than like, sitting in that moment and being like, look at everything that you already did. And that could just be around like the people that are around you. Like, look at that friendship you just cultivated and created. we don't talk every single day, but how easy is it when I see you again that like, we just like, I swear I can just like look into your eyes and I'm just like, I know I'm loved, like no matter what. Like I always feel like I'm in good company. I could be in the worst possible space in my life or looking hideous, like after my surgery and like all this stuff. And you're just like, like, because you don't see that. Like, you're seeing into what you were saying. And it's like, I have that. Like, that love and that sweet, like, light that you were talking about, I have that. Like, and you'll remind me and you'll remind, I'm sure, your kids and all the other people that you love around you of that light that you're seeing in them, which just makes it brighter. Because then they're like, oh, thank you. Like, it's just like smiling at somebody on the street and all of a sudden they just smile. Like we'd be taking walks and you're like, oh, do you guys need me to take your picture? Like I still remember that. Or you'll go and flip pennies on the dang sidewalk so that somebody else gets the luck.
That's a weird Lex thing.
Somebody else gets the luck. I'm like, what? Like, who is this person? So I'm just like casually walking with you and I'm just watching you be your authentic self. Where I think as I've gotten older, I'm like, ew, I don't want that person looking at me or whatever. And I just try to like look the other way. And you're just like making eye contact and like smiling and people are just like, oh, and they just kind of have to smile or they sit up a little straighter and like just that little sprinkle, you know, everywhere you go of just like a little Lex magic. But it is great. And I, like I said, I mean, I just feel so lucky that you even want me on here. Like, I don't even know what I'm going to say or what is going to happen
What
here
we're
today.
even supposed to be
like,
talking about.
But that's the beauty is like supposed to is like nothing. So that's why I like the, just being able to sit here with you and just this would be like something that we'd probably just be talking about normally.
And just in
but
a
now everybody
general
else has
day.
to hear
Yeah,
it.
everyone else is here. I used the reference. You know what that is?
No.
Oh my gosh. So Amanda Bynes, the Amanda Show, back in the day,
Yes.
she had like this old lady character and it'd go, meh.
I love her
And
show.
I used it to a girl who is currently in high school, a freshman in high school the other day. And she's like, Alexis, what the heck is that? And she's like, don't do that anymore. And I was like, you're right. Back in my day,
I would
there was
say
a
you're
thing.
probably right.
Yeah,
I don't
back
know.
in the day, we had commercials and we didn't stream things.
Well, sweet Amanda Bynes, though, huh?
Sweet.
I'm like,
Oh.
my little sweetheart. Send her
Bless
some
you.
love and light.
Send her some love and light.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I haven't caught up since everyone was freaking out about her eyebrows, ? I don't know.
Eyebrows, tattoo, and like, I guess she's into nails now, though.
Great.
She's like
That's
trying
cool.
to like do nails,
Love that
I
for her.
guess. I'm like, okay.
Like you follow your heart.
Yeah.
I don't keep up on it. I have no room to say anything
me
to
either.
anyone.
That's what I'm saying. I have no space in my brain for that. I'm like, literally, my brain is like Pilates right now and then like expanding. And that's literally it. So that and like, I literally eat, sleep, drink Pilates, eat, sleep, drink Pilates. Sometimes I sleep. But mostly
Sometimes I lay there
Pilates.
awake.
Yeah, a lot of the time I'll lay there awake.
Thinking
What am I
about
going to
class.
teach tomorrow? What do I have in store for you guys?
And that's probably the perfect segue because in prepping for this, I read back through your book that is available in your link in bio. And you wrote it before you even came back to Spokane.
Cute.
It was talking
Yeah,
about
that
how
my ebook?
Yes,
Cute.
your ebook from forever ago.
Oh my
and
gosh.
it was talking about how you were back in the Bay and that you were setting down roots. And
Yeah.
I was like, little do you know, you're coming to the can.
Guess what? You're about to uproot and then you can just
Everything.
move back in. You just got to replant it into some fresh soil.
Yeah.
And then you can grow
Watch it
even
for
more, right? So that's the thing too is like, I think I've always kind of been like that though. Like I've always been a little bit more nomadic. It is hard for me to stay in one place and like to do the same thing, right? Every single day, that favorite thing, the same. I have to be doing something different. So I'm like, even now, after almost 3 years, right, of having the studio. So in March, it's 3 years, which is super freaking exciting. And I love my space still so much, but I'm like, I can feel like there's a moment where I was like teaching and I was like, oh, and I ran into a wall. And then I was like, oh, let me just adjust you over. And I would run into the reformer. And I was like, that's weird. Like I feel like I got bigger or my studios got smaller. It's not, it's like the same amount of people, the same square footage, but I'm like, what's going on?
I'm itchy.
Yeah. And it felt like, ooh, okay, I think I might be ready to expand, but it was still kind of scary. So then I waited even longer. And then finally I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready. Like I need to expand. The fact that the gelato place moved out, like they were gone.
The serendipitous timing
Right at
of
the same
the
time.
space next door opening up so that you could expand. And I know that you needed to explore other options first to feel comfortable in that, which is fair though.
Yeah. And like they asked me, like they're like, yo, why don't you move into this space? And I was like, why does everybody else think I can expand right now? Like you're being invited. You're gonna do this. And I was like, no, I can't do that right now. It's scary. And then I was like, okay, but once I sit with it for a little bit, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I think I am ready. And it's not for me. It's for everybody else. Those 2 extra spots that somebody else can take a class and not have to be on a wait list, or, not be in at all, or
Totally.
wait to the next day, or take a different time that they don't want, or whatever. So I think when I can always look at it as a place of like service, I honestly feel like that's easier for me to go, okay, I'll do the scary thing. I'll do the hard part so that everybody else can benefit from it. It's easier for me to expand when I know it's supporting somebody else.
Sure.
And I know maybe that's not the right way to do it. I don't know, but it feels the right way for me.
It's the most natural way for you.
Yeah. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm excited to see, I think, like the next changes, and I think it'll happen like really quick. So I feel like once I made the decision, it was like, okay, now the ball's rolling.
Falling into place.
Yeah. So it's like, it's kind of go time now. So I'm hoping by the time I hit March that it's like studio is expanded, it's up and going, and we're just into the next like era.
Chills.
So yeah, it's super cool.
So stinking cool. Which kind of leads perfectly into, in that book, in your ebook, you discussed imposter syndrome and how this journey, like, I just want to dive into your journey from server to teacher and how that transition, because you are such an effortlessly poised person, or the perception I know of you is this very like, wow, what a beautiful human. You walk into a room and people just notice you.
Man.
And that's it. Man.
It might be because I'm 6 feet tall, but
you need to meet our friend Ari at the studio. She's like 6'3" or something. Like you guys are like these beautiful.
I feel like I'm already friends
goddesses.
with her.
Yeah, I know. You put the hat on. You wore. You're in the same ballpark of height, not a foot taller than your friend. I'm like, hey.
I love it.
I'm 5'4". But exploring the transition, I think that people see someone who presents as confidently as you and see someone who has done as much as you have and would assume that you never grappled with feelings of self-doubt, that you never grappled with imposter syndrome. And I saw your writing, like your mouth was hotter than a sauna, I think is what you said. And like my hands, drier,
yeah.
And it was like my sweaty hands were holding on to my paper for class of what I planned. And then you forgot your notebook. And there was this moment of like, trust the process.
Yeah. You already know everything. Like you went through the training, you did all the freaking things. Like technically you are a Pilates instructor now, but I'm like, but am I? Because with that, with all of that, said was years and years, right? Like my first job was at Cold Stone. So I was just scooping ice cream, whatever. Did that whole thing. That was one of my favorite jobs. Loved it. It, taught me tons of responsibility and like growing up in a big family too. I'm like, you kind of have all those chores to do. You have all those like, this work ethic that's sort of like built in a way just so that everything can flow right in the house. You're cleaning, you're cooking, you're, exploring with your sisters and like all these kind of things. So I'm like, I kind of did it all. So when I had to have a job, I was like, oh, like, sure, I'll take out the trash. Sure, I'll like clean this thing. Sure, I'll do this. So just doing a normal job that I thought was just like a normal thing, they were like, oh, you're going to be like a manager. Like, we need you to be the manager. I said, dang, okay. So I was like, am I ready for that? And again, scared. I don't want to expand. I don't want to grow. I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah.
And
but you got invited to.
Literally invited. And so they were like, we just kind of had to put up the post, but like, we want you. So why didn't you sign up yet? And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I will.
You would have
so we interviewed and they were just like, okay, great, you're the manager. So I'm like, okay, so worked through Cold Stone, loved that job. Then moving into a service job, it just ended up like, okay, this is something different, but I feel like I've got this. I'm doing basically customer service, right?
Right.
And so, teaching or serving for all of those years, it's like, okay, you're there and you're almost anticipating people's needs. So like, what do they need? What's the next thing? And if it's not on the menu or if it's not this, can you make like a really good guest experience somehow?
Yeah.
And, and throughout every single job, and it was everything from like in San Francisco to like Las Vegas and like at the pools and all this kind of stuff. So it was like kept leveling up technically and like service, if you can even think about it that way. And I did love it. Like I remember loving it. Like I remember being like, yeah, they were so happy. And like I did the thing and they were like, wow, really, just excited about it. I'm like, cool. I made their guest experience like really good. And it really did mean a lot to me. But then there was a moment where I was just like, I don't care if you, like, I already asked you, why did you should have told me you want to catch up right when I dropped this off. Like, I already asked you if you wanted something else. And then there's just like, can you get this? Can you get this? I'm like, you're not my only person that's in here. Like, I have to take care of 10 other tables. Like, and then I was like, ooh, okay. I'm feeling this like negative, like energy. Like there was something that I needed to like pull away from. So I was like, okay, what can I do in my life that like, cause I don't want to serve for the rest of my life. And that could be for somebody else, but I was just not being called to do that anymore.
Sure.
So I ended up, really it was like a talk with Lucas, and he was like, well, what can you do? Like, what do you like to do? And I was like, well, you can't really make a living out of working out, and that's the only thing I actually like to do. And he goes, well, you probably can.
Theoretically.
Yeah, you probably can. So this was like way back in, like when we first moved to Oakland, and we, I remember thinking then that I was going to make a workout app.
Yeah.
And like, it's still in my head. I'm like, it's still there, but that was this first seed that was dropped. I'm like, I'm going to make a workout app. Like, I'm going to be like, okay, do like, 20 reps of crunches. This before I knew anything about Pilates too. So it was all just going to be like, personal training kind of like exercises, normal ones. Right. And then I ended up like, okay, well, I have to go through personal training like first. So I went through this whole like online program, went in, took a test, like did like a, practical and stuff.
Sure.
All of a sudden I'm a personal trainer. And then I still was like,
this
doesn't feel good. Like this still doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But I liked the information that I got from it. So then I was like, okay, went and took a Pilates class, just a normal like mat class, like, cause I was just popping in, taking just random classes everywhere.
Right.
Then I take a mat class and I just was like, whoa, that was something different though.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like, I don't even know what the difference really was that made me like really connect with it. But I'd asked the instructor right after class, and I go, so how do you become an instructor? Like, how do you even start this? Like, what is like the very first step that I need to take? And so she just rattled off a whole bunch of like, different Pilates like schools and stuff. And then the only one I kind of like stuck with me was Balanced Body for some reason. So I go home, I type that in, literally just Googled it. And then it pops up like, oh, guess what? Literally next week, a BART ride away, like into the city is teacher training next week. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay, I'm just going to do mat. So that way I can just be like a mat Pilates instructor, and like I don't have to deal with all those crazy machines. Right. And then so I go in, I sign up, I have everything ready, and I'm sitting in this class that's like only like 5 or 6 people. And so they're like, wow, this is like a really small class. Normally there's like 20 people. Like for whatever reason, I got to be in this smaller, more intimate class, which actually was super helpful because of so much like information and like knowledge that we got, and more time got to be spent with each person. And so that part was really lucky. But in that, we go around, we kind of say our names. You say, are you going to be taking the rest of the trainings, or like, what is your, background, da, da, da. And I basically was like, yeah, I'm just going to do the mat training. Never did Pilates before. And that's it, and they're like, oh, interesting. So you're not going to do like the other, the reformer or whatever. I was like, no, thanks. So then at the break, the owner walks up to me and she goes, oh, can I talk with you in here? I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Like nobody ever wants to talk to me in a small room. Yeah. And so
I'm trapped.
Yeah. So she like pulls me aside, and we're like that close. Right. And she just goes, oh, so, I kind of like overheard, like, is money, the only issue was, were you just like not interested in the rest of the training? And I was like, honestly, I would love to take the whole training and be comprehensively trained. It's something that is really interesting to me. I go, but yeah, that is like a huge deterrent. It's thousands of dollars, right? Like it really is. And so I was like, whatever about that. But she goes, well, what if, she goes, I have like basically a proposal, right?
Sure.
If you were to, we have an opening at the front desk. If you were to take over the front desk, work these, X amount of hours, we would pay you in Pilates bucks. And so that money would go towards your training. And I just like looked at her and I was like, are you serious? That's where I'd be spending all my money anyways. Right. And now I get this added benefit of learning the front desk. And so I sat there and I was like, whoa, that's amazing. So just that, like another door opening so effortlessly, I was like, thank you. Okay, that's my next step. So then, I went through the whole training, did all the things, like got to be around so many freaking amazing faculty members, which does not happen at a lot of studios. We had like 6 or 7 faculty members from Balanced Body. And I was like,
that doesn't happen with Balanced Body, especially.
Oh my gosh. I felt so freaking lucky. And then we would get workshops and like just things happening all the time. So I was like in depth. So not only going through teacher training, but then getting to like work with like foot and gait, working with like Tom McClip, doing shoulder, like, cool workshops, like deep stuff. And I was like, awesome. Like I just felt really, really like, this is not, this is just what you get like when you're in a thing, right? And then little did I know, right, that's not the case. So
no, but it's not.
But anyways, I absorbed, watched every teacher, like did all of my like observation hours. and then was like, I'm not going to do the test out. I'm too scared. Right. And so it's just like, okay. So I waited like 3 years to actually do my test out, but I did like teach and was doing things like along the way. But that day that I remember like writing about that, the part you were talking about was like my dry mouth, freaking sweaty hands, all that stuff. I literally stood in that room, the same room that I got trained in. And all of a sudden I'm the role reversal, right? And people are just staring up at me and I'm like,
who's in charge here?
Yeah, I was like, when are we supposed to start this? And then it was like weird because we don't have music or anything too. So it's like so quiet and it's just like so awkward. And, but yeah, it just kind of was like, all right. So once you take that deep breath, it really did kind of like calm everything down. And I'm like, you've already done this. Like, you know what to do. And even if it doesn't go great, sorry guys, I'm like kind of new to this, like be vulnerable and let them know like that thing. So anyways, but once you kind of do get going in it, and it still took me like probably years to like not feel like an imposter. I'm like, I'm a Pilates instructor instead of saying like I'm a server. Sure. I had to say it enough times and to like teach enough different bodies and to like know that I'm not just like regurgitating this information, but I'm like looking at this body and like we're doing an exercise on purpose.
Teaching versus instructing.
Correct. And what a different transition that was too.
Totally.
And so, yeah, honestly, once that door opened and I was like in the thing, I was like everywhere. Like I ended up moving to New Orleans and I worked at like Romney Studios for a little bit over there. We moved, we were in Vegas. We moved back to the Bay probably like twice, just back and forth. But I knew when, like during the pandemic, when all of that stuff happened, it was just like, it felt unsafe.
Sure.
Unfortunately, seeing like a lot of like carjackings and tons of stores just getting broken into. All the stuff is literally happening like a hand's like, with the way. Like it's close. It was in my neighborhood.
Right.
And so literally seeing somebody get shot in front of me, I was like, well, that's not the coolest thing that my anxiety levels were like high. So we were like, dude, where are we going to move? Because it's not going to be here.
Right.
We cannot stay here. So Lucas, my fiance, is from here. So we literally were like, all right, well, that's kind of like, at least we have a home
Spokane's
base.
always an option.
And he goes, there's a water reservoir, there's this. Like he was just like really looking at the future. And so, when we came out, I was like, okay, I feel good here, but I know that I'm not going to be able to work for anybody else. Like I know that I'm going to need my own space and I'm worth more than like what most studios would be paying me anyways, which I totally understand too, right? From both sides of like being an owner, right? And then being an employee, I'm like
how much can a studio afford
100%,
to pay you?
100%. So I'm like,
it's not as much as you could doing it out of your garage with a Cadillac.
And so you think about that and I'm like, okay, but there is right now owning a business, like, you got the overhead, you have all these other random flipping fees that come out. And so it's expensive to own a business, and it could be small, it could be big, whatever, but there are expenses to it. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to take that on though. So when we moved here, I'm like, that's going to be my first goal. And literally in the first like month or two of being here, Lucas is like, dude, I think you need to be in the steam plane. It's a historic spot. Like it's really cool. It's very visible. And so we looked again at a couple different spots, and then I just kept coming back to that. But right when I walked in, I was like, I see it. Like, that's the reformer. That's where the sign's going to go. That's where the mirrors are going to go. And it was so easy to picture it, even with all the crazy paint that was on there in the beginning. And it was like once everything was like in its place, I just was able to take like the deepest breath and was just like, wow, it feels so calming and so just like I'm ready to invite people here. And I was just already imagining like when people would walk in, I was like 4 people coming in, and then like 4 people are kind of leaving, but they're mingling here around like where the coffee and the the tea and stuff is. And now they're all like kind of friends, and they all chat and they like exchange numbers, and some of them know each other. Like, whoa, you come here too? Like, and like cubbies are all full, and like I just kind of like saw it all, even when I only had one person coming in like a week, And so it was just one of those things. I'm like, damn, I just did that. Like that's cool. Like I created that. Like that's really, really cool. So then I knew, I think once I get, like this year feeling into that expansion, I was like, okay, I can see it again. Like I can see adding 2 more people here. I can see expanding this a little bit. I can see creating some breathing room again.
Sure.
So it all kind of came back from that like moment of like insecurity, but just getting past it, and also being like, you're judging yourself way more than anybody else is going to be judging you. And that moment when I did forget my freaking notebook, because I sat there for hours like, okay, we're going to do footwork, we're going to inhale here, we're going to exhale here, the springs are this and this. And then you'd sit there, but you'd read it and then you'd be like, okay, now I'm going to go over here and teach it. Okay. And then next is going to be this. And I'm like, I hated that pause.
Yeah.
Like I want that feeling of flow throughout the whole thing. So when I forgot it, I was like, uh-oh. Well, I know I always start with footwork, so let's just do that and then see what happens. So that footwork in like the repertoire even just like leads to what the next thing is. You're already warmed up for like the next exercise. And so it did sort of become effortless. And I was like, whoa, I just did a whole class, but without notes. I was like, that's wild.
So cool.
And so I just go, well, I guess I'll try to do that again. And and so that is just kind of how I started planning classes. And really, let's keep it real. You write a whole freaking book of notes. And half the time you're like, oh, great. You have a shoulder injury. Your knee can't flex. You're doing this, right? You have to, again, teach the body in front of you.
Scrap it.
So half the time you're not really even like going through the whole, series that you had planned and spent hours and hours like memorizing and doing for your own body and all that stuff. And so I was just like, wow, I could save me a lot of time and just like know the body's in front of me, switch it on a dime, right? That's why you got to know is enough exercises and modifications and things for people that you can be like, I can keep this whole class going with like 4 different bodies obviously moving in front of me. But that took a lot of time. Like I'm almost 10 years in now teaching, like actually like saying words and doing it. And then I'm still like not bored, which I still think I would be like, okay, I'm over this. Like, yeah, I'm tired some days, but I'm like, ooh, that was a good one. Maybe I'll like transition into that exercise and like do this. And like my brain,
what ifs.
Yeah, man, the wheels just start turning and that keeps me excited. And I hope that people see that in my classes. And I feel like we all kind of like will bounce those ideas off each other. Like, wow, that was a really good flow. I'm like, cool. I'm going to keep that in the, in the bank.
In the vault.
And so I don't know. I'm just like really happy, I think, with where I'm at right now. And I think everybody that's coming into the studio, it's that their energy too is like vibing, right? And so you'll know if you're not in the right spot. Like everybody that comes in, they're like, oh, hi, welcome. Oh, was it your first time? And I'm like in the office, I'm like, hee hee hee, like it's so cute. Like everyone's talking to each other. And it does, but you just like, make the space and you just kind of also have to like back off a little bit and just be like, okay, let's see what happens. Like who's coming in and who's needing this right now. And it might even be just for a season, right? They might come in for like a few months and like, that was my first experience with Pilates. That was great. But now I'm moving or first Pilates experience and now I can't afford it or whatever the case is, right? Like there's so many different reasons, but I'm like, I'll be here when you're ready. Like I'll be here when you injure yourself or I'll be here when you are needing maybe a friend or even just like conversation and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel just like good right now. Yeah, good way to start the new year.
It's also cool. I've only ever received your story in bits and pieces. And so it's so fun to finally hear the natural flow that you allowed to occur when you opened yourself up to receive opportunities. And knowing that you felt stuck where you were and just taking the next right step seems to be such a consistent theme in your story and one that most women don't allow themselves to open up to. I don't think a lot of women take their stuckness as a sign for it's time to grow. And instead, this is my life now.
Yeah.
And you see it so often. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud to know you.
Thank you. But I do get that. Like because I've been in those moments where I'm like, I just feel stuck, but I guess you just have to, okay, this is just what it is. And some days there's days that are like, it is what it is. But like, do you want to be stuck like that for the rest of your life? Because you do have a choice. Or do you take that next step? And you were just talking about even just the small ones, right? Where maybe it's just sitting and asking for help. Maybe it's just getting this like out of your head. And I'm like, no, I am doing the right thing. Like it's being vulnerable enough to like open up because honestly too, you could say something out loud. And this is the best thing about like also like when, we go to Anamkara and stuff, when you say stuff out loud, people are like, oh, well, I'm actually that thing that you need in your life. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, but just saying it out loud, it's like, whoa, somebody wants to help. Like, that's really what it is. Like, I want to help people. And I feel like I want to help people feel better in their bodies. And they're like, I'm really struggling after like postpartum or this injury in my knee, I can never move. Or I'm like, whoa, like, hey, I can help you. Like, you want to come over here? Yeah. And so it's like, you can kind of say it out loud and like somebody's there that's going to kind of help to to ease that for you, right? And then even if it again is just a conversation and maybe they steer you to another person and then that's the next thing, right? That's the next small step.
Sure.
But also just like being able to forgive yourself when you've like made a mistake. You're like, well, that wasn't the next right step. Like, let's take 2 steps back. Yeah, let's start over. But that's just life, I feel like too, right? Like everybody's going to have an issue, right, in their lives, whether it is a mental, health condition, which I still like, I'm like, kind of wish I had that. Like you get so much stuff done.
There are superpowers that come with it,
and it's wild.
Heavy weights in a backpack in other moments.
Yeah.
And that's certainly the asking for help is so important, whether it's in business, in friendship, in mental health. And how would you say, because I notice on social that a lot of women either are so desperate for it that they take the wrong love almost, or the toxic friendship, or the person who doesn't actually want to love them and instead is there for their own self-interest.
I mean, I definitely felt that with like even just relationships, like way back in the day. Literally until I met Lucas, I was like, oh wait, a relationship can be like kind and like, kind of effortless, where you're just like, oh, you like me and actually like you and I love you, like all of those things. And 12, almost 13 years later, just like still with this dude that he's my favorite,
Right.
But same thing with like friendships. Like I think I'm done with where like, even in Vegas and like all these other like bigger cities, right? You always think like, I gotta have a lot of friends. Like I have to have so many friends. And like, if I don't have a lot of friends and like nobody likes me or whatever, I want my friend group to be so flippin' small that like I know everything about each of my friends. And no matter if we spend a chunk of time not talking and then all of a sudden getting back to it, like we know enough about each other that we're also like, girl, I know she's busy. Like she needs to go do her thing. Like she'll get back to me when she can.
Yeah.
But you understand each other like on that deeper level. And to have more like real friendships. And I feel like I had to learn this. I'm like just hit 40 and I feel like you're already in that, which I still am in awe of you. Like every time I hang out, I'm like, damn, she's only like 20, what?
I just turned 30.
No, you didn't. Oh yeah, 30. That was your 30th?
That's my 30th
I like
birthday.
showed up for your 30th and I was like, how old are you? I still feel like you're a baby. Like, and you were, a decade apart, duh. But a decade, like that's like a lot of time. And I feel like you've learned more in your 30 years than I did in my 40 right now. Maybe it's different things. And again, we're all on a different path, but I'm just like, teach me things. Like I need you to teach me things because I'm like, whatever it was, this chunk of time in my like life in my 20s, I definitely was just like, woo, let's just do whatever. Let's move around. Let's party. Let's do this. And finally, when I was like, oh, I'm over that. Like, I think that's kind of a normal trend, right? Like 20 experience all this, stuff or whatever. 30s, maybe you're getting a little bit more, focused in your life. In 40s, hopefully you've got it together. I can't really say that's true yet, but, but I think I forgot where I was going with that, but I think I just like love you and that's all.
I do. I love you.
I think I just love you.
And I think the question I wanted to branch into was more, you referred to people who like just moved into town and they have no one. And there are people that have lived in the same place their whole life and still feel like they have no one.
Yeah.
And so if you were to talk to a version of yourself when you were starting over, a version of yourself when you had all the friends in the world, but maybe not as many deep connections as you maybe would have wanted, what would you tell her? How would you just tell her to start? Where would you start? Step 1 in cultivating loving relationships.
Again, I think I would just try to like put myself out there. Like this is how I started when I like first moved to Spokane. Because granted, Lucas has his family and all his friends and stuff out here, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And I was starting a business. So my business relies on people coming into it.
Friends.
So for me, it was putting myself out there, even though it felt super flippin' uncomfortable. So beautiful thing about Spokane is during the summer, right? They have those like riverfront moves or whatever it is, like all these like movement classes outside for free. So I was like, I'm going to go try a freaking kickboxing thing. I'm going to go try Pilates. I'm going to go try this yoga class. Like putting myself out there to like move. And then in that moment where people are like rolling up mats or like just showing up or whatever, it's like, hi, I just moved here. I'm Tiana. Like maybe it's just the one person next to you that day. Yeah. And then like, what do you do? Okay, you just get kind of used to like talking to people. So for me, it's like, just getting out and doing something that you enjoy, because it might be going to get some ice cream, or it might be, you know, going to get tea or seeing a movie or whatever. But maybe talking to the person like behind the desk or whatever. You never know where like that next relationship or like, you know, link might happen. And it literally could be the person that's like selling you your movie ticket, right? Or it could be, I mean, that's probably on a freaking computer at this point. But,
it's a robot
but
now.
Someone's got to check you in.
People are friends with robots.
But just like little things, like Lucas could talk to anybody. Like he would have a full-on conversation with the guy that's getting him his popcorn, talking about movies and, you know, talking about all that stuff. But you kind of find where your passions are and, you just sort of try to be open to it, right? And even if the first time you go, you just sit there and you observe and you absorb and you just kind of like look around. And then maybe the next time you go, you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe, you know, I know something about that. Or, oh, hey, like, you know, did you need like to use my mat? Or did you need to, you know, you just kind of like offer up maybe something like that. That's what I would try to do, is again, it's always helping. But then honestly, again, I just keep bragging about Autumn Carr, but that was another place that I went that I was like, oh, she gets it. Like I walked into that freaking apothecary and I was like, crystals and sage and this. And I was like,
rocks and smoky
my
things.
girl. And so I remember that day, like I came back with like a sticker and like my crystals, and I just like sat them like in my brand new studio, and I was like, cool. And so I knew I had that place to also go to, and to be in these like moon circles and around, again, other vulnerable women, people that have just moved here too, or again, people that have lived here for forever, but a brand new something.
Craving something.
Yeah. And so it's like, do something that you know you're going to like regardless if you're with anybody else, right? So first be like okay with it, like for yourself. Like, are you okay in your own company? Are you okay sitting there?
Are you
and
happy
just,
alone?
Yeah. And just being there and being like, and there's a difference, right, too, of like being alone and like being lonely. And so that is like another thing. Like I can sit with my own self and
Snaps
like,
for that.
yeah. And I can just like write in my journal or drink some tea or clean the house or whatever. And I can have no sound on, or I'm listening to a podcast. Like I can be in my own company and be okay. And I feel that way when I'm with Lucas. And so I know that that's how like a friendship and that kind of like thing should be. And that's how I feel with my closest friends, right? Where again, you can sit in silence, or you can like, just go into the fridge and get whatever. Yeah. Like you can,
that should be without saying.
Yeah. And you can be like,
food.
oh yeah, my house is dirty. And I'm like, cool, I get it. Like, my cat just threw litter everywhere. Like, and like, oops, sorry, you know, but you're just like you're real. You're just being like your real, like again, authentic self. And, I don't know. I feel like, if you can, you got to be a little bit vulnerable though, or at the very least show up and be in the space that you want to be in.
Don't have the walls up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we know her.
Yeah.
And that's so
believe
hard.
me, I can easily go put myself into a corner. I'm like, okay, nobody talk to me, because I've been
you put yourself in a box.
I've been in those moments too.
Energy speaks louder than words. And I have been in those. My friend,
just eye contact, I feel like is the biggest thing. Like, okay,
I
you
know.
talk to me.
And like, instead of being on your phone, maybe set it aside.
Yeah.
Like challenge yourself with that little bit of
so
discomfort, because it's a tech wall.
Yep.
And if you have your headphones in and you're trying to invite friends, it says, don't talk to me.
Yeah, totally. That's me on the airplane.
Right, totally. I don't love being talked to on airplanes. I am an overly social person, and airplane time is like, leave me the heck alone time. But I'm like, oh, I have a whole big set of big feelings. I've on airplane talk. I'm like, there are signs. I have given them to you, and you have ignored them.
Take out my pod 4 times to be like, what?
Like with the eyebrow raise.
Yeah.
And like the slight chin
Is this
up.
really important?
I'm like, is this more important than Deepak Chopra? It's not.
I think so.
I'm telling you now, it's not. Unless the oxygen mask is down and I didn't see it.
Yeah, unless you are Deepak. Okay.
How wild would that be?
I know. Cool.
He probably flies private.
Aw,
nerds.
Well, you know, maybe he's
There
like
could be
in
a
his
day.
human.
Yes.
I just need
He's
to be.
been downloaded into someone else.
Yeah, I love it.
Deepak is everyone.
Whoa, that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole other podcast. But my friend is, one of her goals is to host, she's a real estate agent, and she has a goal to host events for past clients. So she has a Valentine's Day favorite things party that she's going to host. And she called me to get help with the invite. And of course, we haven't bought a house in like a decade. So we aren't her client.
Yeah.
But we're her friend.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, so A, this is a call asking for help on this invite. And B, this is a call informing you that I am inviting you, and I'd really like it if you could come because you talk to people in corners.
You are so nice. Like, you'll straight up hug a stranger, man. And I'm like, she's my friend.
She's
Like,
my
you're,
friend.
yeah, you're like the person that, like,
You're
we
my
can just
people.
put out there, like, take you to an area nobody knows you. Like, and I'm just like, like, she needs to be the person that, like, opens the door and just, like, makes everybody else kind of feel, like, comfortable. But you are one of them.
And I was just like, I guess I do talk to people in corners, but
really
I don't
do.
think about it. But I talk to people in corners, and it's a weakness sometimes, and it's sometimes a strength.
Wait, how's it a weakness?
My chronic nice person, I've really had to hone it in. I lived in Portland.
Why does it
for a
drain
bit.
you, or does it take?
Sometimes it drains me, but it invites energy that I didn't mean to invite.
Ooh,
or in the past, it has invited energy that I did not mean to invite.
Oh, I feel you.
And it's people
Like
deciding
that one guy
to...
that followed you to the table.
Yeah.
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 I'll sit with you for a while. No, I don't want to.
Right. I'm like, I have actively told you to leave me alone.
Yeah.
But
Ugh.
obviously not in my chronic nice person voice, so you didn't hear it.
I know.
And that's something that I've grown through, and it's a different tone of voice I use. I feel it strain me.
Yeah.
When it's that higher pitch.
Oh my God. This
oh my
is
gosh,
definitely
hi.
fake.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, it's a different pitch in me. And I went through my master mentor with Lolita, and she was hard on me. Yes. Like, a little too hard in some instances. However, one of the first, like, really harsh things she said, like, things don't land and hurt unless they have truth in your heart.
Ooh.
And unless you believe a piece of that for yourself.
Man. Yeah.
And, like, if someone accused me of being too tall, I'd be like, what are you smoking? I'm like, oh, that's cute. It wouldn't land. It wouldn't hurt. Because I'm like, I am 5'4" and Asian. Like, I am never going to be too tall for anyone.
Yeah.
And if I am, that's their problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if someone told you that you were too tall, you might feel it of like,
I might
the
be
hell?
more like this
You might
now.
make yourself small.
Yeah. Oh, now I do want to sit up straighter.
Well, just those moments of like,
Yeah.
And she didn't deliver it in a kind way, but there was truth in it. And I had just gotten done teaching my reformer stuff, and I got really good marks from the lady from Switzerland. I got really good remarks from the lady in Ukraine. I got really good remarks from even my mom, and that's really hard to get with her to me. And she's like, you are a woman, not a girl, and it's time to start acting like it. Smack!
But, like, what did she mean by that? Like, how did it hit you? So
because she would mock my...
You were nice?
It was a niceness, and she didn't understand the niceness for the sake of niceness. She didn't understand the optimism for the sake of optimism. She didn't understand my first creative movement. Like, I was taught from a space of precision, and creating creative movements for me was painful. Yeah. It was not fun. Yeah. And for so many people, it's like, oh, like from a dance background or whatever, like, yeah, I'm just going to flow into this, whatever the fart. And I'm like, I was trained by an Olympic synchronized swimmer who has a propensity for precision. Vomit.
There's a place, like, I think, for that,
if my fingers aren't reaching and my elbow isn't actively lifted and my shoulder isn't down and my mustache isn't back, like, I feel like I have failed.
Oh my gosh.
And like, just like, that's where I was trained from, though. And it wasn't from a place of creativity that Pilates was taught to me. And like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Yeah. And I'm glad that I learned in my box first, like, and then to learn to be open as I grew. 100%. But flunked my first creative movement. I didn't know other schools of thought. I only knew Lolita. And so I do my creative movement, and she's like, someone that was trained in power Pilates was like, that's power Pilates. And I was like, well, it's not Lolita. So I didn't know it existed. Like, I literally know my box. Aww. And this is out of my box. Yeah. And she was like, that's power Pilates. And I'm like, well, sue me, Gretchen. Yeah. I didn't mean to name drop there. It's her name. It's her actual name. Oopsies. Sorry, Gretchen, if you ever listen to this ever. I love you. But Lolita was like, that was terrible. Oh. And I was like, jeez. Okay. And I was like, okay. And she just mocks, and she like perked up like she goes, okay. And I'm like, do you want me to make up a new one now, or can I show you tomorrow? And she's like, show me tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, great. So it was just like these, but it was the mocking of my peppiness.
Yeah.
It was the mocking of what she perceived to be weakness. And it landed and it was hard. And in healing that wound, I realized that it was people pleasing. It was who I thought I had to be. And it was who I was used to being rewarded for being, to be up.
Yeah.
And hi there in my years of service, in my years of retail and customer service. And I do think it should be like a societal mandate that you should have to serve tables for a period.
100.
And you should have to work retail for a holiday season.
Love it.
Like, so that you're never that person.
Yeah.
Don't be that person.
Yeah.
Don't be this poor girl's story at the end of the day and maybe for the next 3 decades. Like, for being
I still remember you.
Garbage from Garbage Island. And like, you have those serving stories where you're like,
totally
oh,
do.
wow, you were that person.
Wow.
Don't be that person.
Yeah.
Because you have experience with those
when
people.
They start like, I'm a really good tipper, so just like take care of me. I'll take care of you at the end. I'm like, oh, and now I don't want to take care of you because I already know you're not going to be a good tipper.
Yeah.
Good tippers don't say that.
Good tippers don't tell you they're good tippers.
And lesson learned.
Powerful
again.
people don't tell you they're powerful.
Yeah,
they don't
exactly.
have to.
You do it in silence, and you do the things that like, whatever. But anyways, service, that's tough, and we were in it for like a long time. Still, I feel like any amount of time is too long. But honestly, some people still thrive in it and they love it and they love the cash they get like right at the end of the night.
Oh,
great.
beautiful.
They can deal with people. They can
I wish I had been smarter with money when I was serving.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it. Me
wish
too.
I knew what I was doing.
Especially when I lived in Vegas. I was like, dude, I'm making like $800 to $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
And I get to see free concerts and basically be drinking in the cabanas like with them. So I was like, oh, this is not real life.
This is good.
It literally felt like not real life though. Like at the end of the day, I was like,
it's a
vortex.
vortex.
Was like my job. Like that's weird. So when you move and all of a sudden I'm only making $200 a shift, I was like, ugh. Broke ass, it's like come on. But that's again like another push to be like, you do not belong here. Like you do not need to be in this world anymore. You need to go do something that is again like more not only creative, because that's like where I can like really like expand. Right? I feel like even I remember before my teacher training was over, I was like already trying to do other moves and like, listen, just stick with the book right now.
Stay in the box.
Once you take your test, then do whatever the hell you want. But it was like for now,
don't get it confused until you test.
Correct, because that could have actually
because you can fail.
Off. Yeah, that actually could have thrown me off. And I was like, that was really good advice. And then the other really good advice, she said, self-practice. Just keep self-practicing no matter what, because that's one thing that is going to get lost and that kind of has a little bit.
Sure.
But I try to come back at least to like 15 minutes, 10 minutes even a day of like at least what am I going to like teach that day, right? Like, and I'll try to demo it and like whatever, but like get it in my body, because that's the only way to like know what they're going to be feeling, knowing how many maybe reps they're going to do. How does that flow into the next exercise? So you can't just kind of be there and like, again, be like a robot and just, well, you can, I guess, and teach whatever the thing you taught yesterday was. But yeah, to have, like for me, I had to have that creative spark in there. So that is so necessary, I feel like, with any job that I've like taken, even just at different studios. Like I'm like, you can't keep me in a box. So if you're telling me I have to teach your way or like a certain way, I just literally can't do it. I'm like, I don't even know if that's like in there to do. Yeah. So I'm like, I have to be able to be like, I don't even know what I'm going to teach today. Who's in front of me? Okay, yeah, we can do this now, and I can like do these challenging exercises or peel back a little bit knowing who's in the class. They don't know that, but I do. Sure. And I can like,
You're not going to tell them you're the weakest link today.
Yeah, so we're going to only do this kind of thing,
So listen, it's all your fault that my class is trashed.
We're going back to basics today, people.
Listen.
I totally just went in a different direction with that. So sorry.
No, not at all. Like it's exactly the way it's supposed to flow.
Yay. Awesome.
And we're having a cozy pod day. So life's good. Yeah, you came from a fresh morning of teaching and it's almost your studio's 3rd birthday.
I know.
And I know that you've mentioned a couple times about how for you to not live so nomadically and to like truly put roots down was a big transition for you, but also to take something from idea all the way through to execution and now into thriving, like to be in a business in only your 3rd year, like business baby, like that's the size of Eloise, like, or Milo, let's say Milo, because he's turning 3 soon, but it's a Milo size
no, I'm just kidding.
baby. It's a toddler.
Yeah.
And to be out of debt, to be like, that's so, it can be so hard to do if you don't have the bigger vision in mind.
Yeah.
And to be in this place of expansion, I'm so proud of you again.
Oh.
Again.
Thank you.
Listen, Linda, proud of you. But for someone who maybe doesn't see themselves as someone who can take one of their dreams into actual physical reality, or you in the place of like, I couldn't do that, what advice would you give her?
Man, well, I feel like even with mine, I remember sitting down and writing everything in a book. And I was like, by the time I'm 40, I will have a successful Pilates studio. Like, I remember writing that sentence, and I still have it. And I was like, but that's like, I think I was 37 or something at the time, or 36. And I remember writing that down. I was in Oakland, laying in my bed and like surrounded by my plants and whatever. I'm like, and I wrote down how I wanted to feel. So I didn't even necessarily know how I wanted it to look or what it was gonna eventually be.
Yeah.
And I had just even come to terms with like, yeah, maybe I will just have my own space. And I just wanted it because I was like, I didn't want to have to work for anybody else anymore.
Right.
And I knew that like every time I taught a private, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make that instead of like getting, 20% of it or whatever.
Right.
And so I think it kind of came from that first. Like I finally was like in my, like I knew my skills were like, I deserve more. And so I finally felt that, that took a long time too, I think, to get to, but that was just constant teaching, constant showing up, constant like learning more. Like it wasn't just like, okay, I taught for the day and that was it. I would go home and like freaking read so many different like Pilates books, and like anatomy was so thrilling to me. And like, so just to read and like get that information. And so I think the more like that you want to do a thing, like just get as much information as you can from everywhere and everything. And then you can kind of like filter it out. But yeah, I would write it down and I felt the feelings. Like I was like, I want a space where you can take like this deep breath and it feels very airy and it's bright and there's like real like light coming through the windows, and plants everywhere and all that. Like in my head, I'm like, I just want to feel that like just a breath of fresh air when you walk in, and it just feels like your eyes want to widen. You just want to look at everything. Like I just liked that feeling.
Yeah.
And really it has everything. So the other thing I said is I wanted it to be like around water, and I was like, kind of like a walk down to the river.
Yeah.
That's pretty close. So it being that close, I was like, okay, that's doable. But anyways, I think it's the feeling. And then like for me, I wrote everything down that like I felt like I wanted. And it's weird once you write it down, how you kind of think it has to be like, okay, well I have to do it now because it's written down. It's kind of like in my to-do list. Like once it's down, I have to like, it has to be done now. So reading back on it, it literally was everything that I wanted and everything that like I kind of like felt that was like put into that business. And then remind me of what was the other thing. So
just taking something from idea to execution. And I feel like you covered a lot of it of just keep showing up.
Yeah.
Do the reps.
Yeah.
Get your 10,000 hours. Who says 10,000? Is it Maxwell? No,
I don't even know.
Someone else.
Yeah.
Like to mastery, 10,000 hours to mastery. And show up, do your reps, write it down, and always be learning. Because the person who has nothing, it drives me bonkers when
like I'm done with that.
Well, a teacher that walks, and like this is in Pilates in particular, and I know that it can't be industry specific. The person who comes in and it's like they've arrived. The person that comes in and it's like, what are you going to teach me? It's
still hard for me to say like even master. Like I know there's master instructors, right? And they literally have that title and they've done it, but I'm like, but everything, like you know everything, and like every single body that comes in, and like I just feel like I'm always going to be a learner.
Right.
And I love being the teacher part of it, but I'm like, give me more information.
Right.
Tell me something I don't know. Like, I want to know that. And I love when people critique me. I'm like, give me it. Like, okay. And cause I could, like you said, resonate with you or not. And I could be like, yeah, I probably could have said that better, or
tell me
cued that better, right?
Would have felt better in your brain. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. But, okay, go ahead and say what else you're going to say. Sorry.
I don't know. No, that's okay.
There we go. Love to cut people off.
Well, no, that's exactly what this is for. And I don't want this podcast to ever be like sterile, or, when it's just like,
just being more real.
I want it to be conversational. I want it to be almost the way that my brain works, where I do take nice little detours. I take scenic routes all the time. And there are so many people that walk in and they've just arrived, and you can kind of feel it, and you're like, like it's just kind of a tautness and a lack of approachability. And I think I'm really lucky to be surrounded by so many women who are really excellent at what they do and are constantly showing up as learners too, and aren't complacent and are still kind and still open, because that can be, you can get stuck in that wah, 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 wah.
Well, and it's like so stressful, because like I do the same thing every single day, right? As far as like
technically speaking,
right? Like waking up at 6:30, like going, you do your little ritual in the morning of literally like your tea or your supplements or whatever, and then I like go into the studio, right? Like turn on the lights, do this thing, and like teach the classes at those hours. Okay, go home, maybe like get to hang out with Lucas for a little bit or have like a little snack, and then like, okay, now it's bedtime, and now it's like doing the same thing again. And it's different every day just because of like what I'm teaching or who's showing up or whatever. But it is the whole point of like you're showing up. So even on those days when I'm super tired, even on those days that I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to teach today, and I can't think about anything except for like right now, I feel like all of a sudden I have allergies, and I'm like, all I can think about right now is my stuffy nose. And so I'm like, but it's you were saying is like literally, it's literally just showing up. Like, and I think from bringing something like kind of coming back to it was from this idea into like fruition is you show up, you just, again, ask for help. You are just bringing awareness to that thing that you want, right? And so the more you think about it and the more you visualize it, but it's like it's right here, and I'm like holding this glowing ball of light, but it's like it's right there. And like it's so weird because when you go back and you read all the stuff that you wrote down before, all of a sudden I have it, and I'm like, okay, that was weird. Okay, can I do that again? And then like you just start to write it again, and it's not going to happen instantaneously. Sometimes it does, which is even crazier, because one of the first things I wrote down in my 13 wishes this year was, a new car. And so like all of a sudden Luke's like, man, we really got to get a new car. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, so I saw that drive up the other night, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and so we just like sell that one, all right, get a couple $1,000 for it, poor little thing.
Yeah, sweet little honey.
But now it's like I feel safer driving on the roads, and like I feel like, the windshield wipers actually work. I can see outside the back door.
Right.
The door actually opens when I want it to. Like, and so it's like that already brings like such a calming thing. Like there's no like negative vibes or like scary energy with that, and so like I can focus that on like now another class, a little less stress in that part of my life where I can like turn and like, now I'm open. I have more space to like
mental freedom.
Yeah, to add this other stuff that I actually want to do. Like
what in your life is taking up more space or asking for more attention than you realize?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Interesting. And that's just a good thought in general.
Yeah, that's also I'm like, I gotta have my house clean before I even try to have a conversation. Like I'll go and have a tiny like apartment, right? Like I'm in a studio apartment. But I'm like, that is almost worse because then I see everything, in like one room. I'm like, ooh, I gotta like, okay, take everything off that chair that I did change 4 times and to find the right outfit, It just sat there. I didn't want to hang it back up in the moment.
Because what if?
So, it's like, so I had to like.
What if I change my mind again?
Hang everything up. Okay, go vacuum now. Like tidy this up, wipe everything down. Well, you notice one thing, now it's another. But once everything's clean, I'm like, now I have that space to be like, do I just want to sit here? Do I want to read a book? Do I want to learn something else? Do I want to kind of just watch the rest of Gilmore Girls? Like, what do you want to do? But now I have like, I can make the choice. Because before I'm like, there's just too much stuff. Like, and then I'll just sit there and do nothing, where I just literally sit there and I'm like zone out. And that's kind of not good either. Like I want it. Yeah. And it's like, cause it's either, fight or flight or fawn, and you're just like, or freeze or whatever it is. I'm like, I'll freeze. Like, don't even talk to me. I'm just laying here.
What's your reptile brain? Have you asked that question before?
What? Oh, I think you told me
like
this.
Like the first reptile I think of.
Well, a turtle just popped in my head. And I kind of think that actually makes sense too, because then I do kind of want to hide.
I'm like, how is it true for you?
But that's funny because I didn't even try to think about it. I did not even try to think about it. I just literally
Right, it's the first one that comes in your mind. I'm like, so those of you listening, if you close your eyes and take a big breath, the first reptile that comes to your brain, I'm like, just don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Like mine's a gecko. The first time I was like,
but I can see that running all around, like going in all different directions.
I'm here, but I'm not. Like they drop their tail.
What?
They lose their tail when they're scared. Yeah, they can. Have you never seen that? They shed their tail. Their whole tail can pop off, and it'll still be like living.
Pops off.
Yeah, if they're scared, their tail pops off, and like you're still here, but you're not.
Wait, why do they want to drop their tail?
Because like if a bird's trying to get them,
because it makes you.
If they grab their tail, then they can leave. So they can escape danger because the tail is being eaten by the bird.
Ew, like that fast?
Yeah.
Ugh. That's so
Not
crazy.
like an overnight, like, or a month to shed my tail. Like, no, like pops off. And like, I've seen people who have pet geckos who like,
oh my God, then they
are
start
like
over with
anxious
another
geckos.
little nub?
Yeah.
They
And they're like anxious little geckos. And so like, you'll startle them with the glass or whatever, and they'll like pop their tail off.
Shut up.
Yeah, it's awful.
Oh my
Poor little bit. And they have to regrow it.
Do they use it for anything, like hanging on stuff, or like?
I don't know.
Like, what's the point of it? Just there?
I think that's the point of it, is like protection.
Okay, cute.
Is security, safety, life.
And so you kind of can relate with that though, like
yeah,
when you really,
like when I
think about
dug
what
deeper
it does.
into Gabby Gecko, like why is she my reptile? She, in moments of stress, like Julian's, his was a snake, like he kind of attacks.
Whoa, cool.
And Turtle kind of goes in.
Yeah.
Like, nope.
In my safe place, don't
in
look
my
at
safe
me.
place, don't look at me.
Yeah.
And Gecko, she's here, like she still has a piece of her here. Like my body will still be here, but my brain is somewhere else. If I'm under attack, I'm kind of like either physically running and like saying something mean as I walk away, so I'm still there, I'm still in your brain, or I am physically here, but I am not mentally here. Like I'm here, but I'm not.
Man, that's crazy. So why does that work? Why is that? Oh, because that's our reptilian brain.
Yeah.
Oh, duh. Okay. Oh my gosh.
And so it's just like,
That's
what
cool.
resonates with you? And so then
That's
you can
really
kind
cool.
of reflect on who are you in stress? And how do you tend to react with sudden threat? And then how can you take that information and now apply it to what does Gabby Gecko need to feel safe in adversity?
And again, it's for something else, right? Like it's not for you.
If I'm
for some
taking
reason,
care
it's
of Gabby
easier.
Gecko, the gecko I've named.
Correct.
In her little tank.
Yeah.
What does she need? And she needs a warm lamp. And she needs some
and isn't
water.
that funny? You're like, dude, like a warm lamp does sound good. Like I love laying on my like, little infrared mat. I'm like, ooh, I like to be warm too. And a little reptilian brain.
I like to visit winter. I would love to visit winter.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I actually like about Spokane is that there is the like seasons of it. Because growing up in California, that is you're basically like, oh, February and March is like it's spring already. It's warm outside. You can be in like a t-shirt and freaking like shorts or whatever.
I would thrive.
Flip flops all the time. Like people just wear flip flops and jeans all the time. Like that is the look out there.
Right.
But that's what is kind of scary and weird. Also coming here, I'm like, oh, snow. Like, how do I drive on this? And like, it is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I don't want to do it, even if it's a block away.
If you didn't grow up doing it, I
100%.
imagine. Like my mom gets all freaked out because she came from Phoenix.
Yeah.
And so she's like,
Desert.
the hell is this? And like, I grew up growing in this. Like I spent a whole winter of driver's ed figuring out how to drive in the snow and on the ice. So I'm like, nah, it's
I remember
fine.
I was like, how's the ice? She go, girl, the roads are fine. And I was like, but I kind of slipped a little bit on one of them.
Right. I was
car
like,
went
how's
the
your
other
hill?
way.
Because like, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't an active crash on your hill.
Yeah.
And I was like, have the police shown up today? No,
Here.
then I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, is it physically impossible to get up that hill? No.
There's days that it has been, though, and that was so scary. It's like, and the car's going backwards. Like, your foot is to
There is
the floor,
nothing you can
pedal
do.
to the metal. I was
Like, Jesus,
ugh.
take the wheel. And you kind of hear it
Spinning down.
groan. It's like,
Well, hopefully there's no people on the road. Yeah, that too. It just kind of hits.
you just like hit the curb. You're like, well,
Also kind of anticlimactic.
her
like,
final resting place. Snow driving's a whole thing.
Yeah.
If you're not from Washington, so
not
sorry.
cool, not cool.
So sorry. Oh my goodness. I wrote The Courage to Trust the Process, and that kind of came in our conversation about imposter syndrome and everything, and just like having to put it all down. And like, you're so good at this. This is my little doodle for you.
I love it.
I don't know what she is. For reference, for anyone listening, I draw a little thing for, and like, I think Hannah and Steph are
That's
in
cool.
other
So you
journals.
literally just like feel their kind of energy.
Yeah,
like when
I
you're coming
do.
in, like what's my.
Yeah. Do you remember Dr. Aubrey's Get in Shape exercise that we
Yeah.
did at the
Yeah.
intuition workshop? It's that.
Oh my
I do that.
gosh.
So what was funny as I was like looking at it this morning, it was 3 dots, so 6 sets of 3, and equals 18 dots. And then I was like writing the date for today, and I was like 1/8. It's 18. It's 1/8.
Cool.
Which is serendipitous and funny.
I love it.
I'm like,
can I
there
take
are-
a picture of that?
Sure.
Like in a weird way, it looks like a fox. Like the way you're looking at it, 2 ears, the tail's kind of like
Oh,
rounded,
that's cute.
right?
I love that. I hadn't seen it that direction yet.
So let's see this way though. Yeah, and I'll just kind of look at this and be like, what can I see out of it?
I don't know what she
From
is
all
yet.
different- Yeah, I can kind of see the fox upside down.
I'm like, it ends up being like random
Maybe like
doodles.
a cute little like bird, like the feathers are kind of like this, and she's like this a little bit.
A little dove.
I can see that.
Penguin.
Yeah, that's cute though. I like it. I'm a fan.
I don't know what she is. I don't know.
Mine.
She's mine. She's mine. And I realized I didn't ask if you had a hard stop today.
No, I just have a cardiologist appointment at 1 p.m.
Question mark.
I know.
Can
I
you
don't know.
expand on that for
See,
me?
it's so weird. So somebody was like, don't like stop stressing yourself out. Like it's nothing. So like this will happen like every once in a while where I'm like, oh, like I just feel like that wasn't a normal beat, or that isn't a normal feeling, where I'm like standing and I'm like, I can't really breathe. Like I can't really take like a deep breath. And granted, I feel like it's got to be anxiety or something, because a lot of the time it's like before I have to go in an airplane, right? And I'm like,
Sure.
oh my God. Like I even, as I've gotten older, like I need to sit in the aisle seat now. I need as much space for my long legs as they
What
possibly
does
can
Tiana
take.
Turtle need?
Yeah, I was like, I
to
need
feel safe?
space right now. And so I'm like, it was hard like to breathe, and like my heart was doing like some weird like beats and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is weird. So I went to the doctor. They did like a 5-second like EKG thing, or 10-second like EKG. And he's like, yeah, there's like a little irregularity here. He's like, we can put you in like a, you know, the little bands that they put
Yeah.
like across your chest. So I'm going to get that today, and they'll do like a
Interesting.
48-hour thing. And so they'll just kind of put like, you know, like the trends
Yeah.
basically like day to day. And like I know in the morning I can feel like right when my alarm goes off, I roll out of bed. I'm like, and heart rate spikes. And then it's like, and you're in your day.
Interesting.
It's like, okay,
Yeah.
hurry up and go, go, go. And I know kind of throughout the day it just like does its normal thing, but I'll find moments where I'm like, ooh, like just I needed
Sure.
to take a deep breath, or like I'll sigh a lot. And Lucas is like, what? And I'm like, no, like I just needed to breathe. Like I just needed
Yeah.
to actually take a deep breath.
I am
He's
not
like,
upset.
Oh,
I
okay.
just need
yeah.
a minute.
I just needed to breathe. But yeah, so that's kind of like a weird thing that's going to happen today. I have no idea what's going to actually happen with it, but yeah, it could be totally just anxiety of owning a business all by myself and doing, you know, all of this alone. So
Who's in charge here?
it
It's
could
me.
also, oh no, it's me. So yeah, that, I think it's just kind of funny because I can see like both sides of it, but I also just want to like double check and just be like,
Better check.
all right, like, yeah, I'm 40 now.
check.
I don't want everything to go downhill
Let's
just
check.
yet.
I'm happy that you're in the process of checking.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's just, it's weird. Like hitting 40, I'm like, ooh, you kind of feel it though. Like, and I do like get to work out, and I'm pretty like, you know, cognizant about like what I eat and that kind of stuff. And it's not to say that I'm not eating bad things, you know,
Yeah.
but I know I'm eating bad things. I'm going to intentionally eat this cookie, you know?
Yeah.
And, but I think that's kind of part of it too, right? Is like, as long as you have like the awareness of it, like, why am I eating this right now? Because I want to, because
Am
I
I
feel good, or am I
bored? Am
sad,
I
depressed?
feeling a need?
Exactly. And so I think I've been better with that. And even if I know it's still like, I'm doing it because I'm bored. I'm not even hungry right now. I just want to eat this, you know? It's like, but I can also be like, okay, yeah, what's the ultimate goal, right? Like mine
Yeah.
isn't like to really lose weight or anything like that, but I can tell when I eat better foods, how much more spot on my brain is, and how much better my cueing is, and how much more energy I have. I'm not crashing, right? Like in the middle of the day either. So I think, yeah, food in that case is like just super important, where as I got older, I'm like looking at it more as energy. But also still is like, num num, you know?
Right.
But like you still
But
want
letting
to be able to see it
yourself
both.
have that num num moment.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so anyway, this is 40.
This is but I know that you came from a family that wasn't necessarily as health aware.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that various family members have taken steps to be more conscious in their daily life, which has been really inspiring to watch the pieces that I've been able to watch on
Yeah.
social. But what was that transition like? And I don't know how else to put it from a
Yeah.
place of, there are a lot of women who want to change their life for the better as in regard to their wellness, but their circles are not there. And there can be a lot of ridicule. There can be a lot of like joking. "Oh, I was just joking. Like, why are you taking like, oh, you brought salad, you know, like, oh, you brought
I know,
a
isn't
veggie
that weird when
dish."
everybody like kind of like is doing that, but it's like you're doing a good thing for yourself. So because what I really think it is, they're saying it to themselves, like, damn, I should probably be eating a salad right now. It really is always, I come back to like kind of like a mirror, right? If you're going to be, oh my God, you're bringing celery sticks and like this is your snack and like not popcorn or cookies or this or that, they feel bad. Like they are wishing that they probably could be more like conscientious, right? Of like their health, and like they know that probably is the better thing for them, but they're going to like choose this other thing because it's easier, right? But I mean, I did grow up in like a bigger family, right? Obviously a little bit less, you know, well off. And so food for us, it was literally like, okay, it's going to be tons of casserole type things, right? Like, so you get shepherd's pie, we get SOS. It's like gravy on a piece of toast, like meat gravy on a piece of toast, right? And it's like all these canned vegetables, like mushy green beans and peas. Like that's how I thought they were supposed to be, this muted green color, soft and mushy. So then when you get like a real green bean or a fresh pea, you're like, what the heck is this? So, you know, kind of at that age, like fighting a little bit for food, right? Like it was like a little bit of a struggle. We still ate every day, you know, like it's not like we were freaking starved or anything. But what that did make me do is like become one, kind of creative in the kitchen, which was really fun for me. What do we have in the kitchen? And like, how can we make something? Like I was like the original Chopped, you know, it's like, okay, like 4 ingredients, like what the heck can you create out of this?
Yeah.
So me and my sisters actually had a lot of fun, like creating. My mom like allowed us to be in the kitchen too, which was kind of fun. They weren't like, stay away from the burners, don't use a knife. Like she was like, go in there, be creative. So we actually got to be super creative. And with, like food and stuff like that, I think we were still just kind of looking at it as like, you know, we just have to eat. Like we didn't necessarily think of, oh, like you need to eat your carbs. And like we knew what the pyramid was. Yeah. But it's like what the pyramid was. It was like all these freaking carbs at the bottom and grains and this. Oh, so cereal is part of that. Great, let's eat. Like not knowing the whole backstory that we know now, right? With like all big pharma and big like food
big
and
food,
big everything.
Breakfast is the most important meal. Like, was actually propaganda.
As long as it's this sugary cereal, because that's what we want you to eat, you know, and dairy and all this kind of stuff. So anyways, like it was just at that point, it was just like food. Like if you can eat something, like good for you. You know, I don't care if it had any kind of vegetable or goodness in it, right? But my mom actually ended up going through like nutrition school. So like she just went to like a community college, like went and got like this, you know, just education in that. Like, so that's kind of like where she wanted to go. So then I remember like going off to school, it was like, make sure you eat some protein in the morning. So like, and it has to be with like a carb. So that way it's together. So she was like, have a piece of toast with peanut butter or eat this with this. That's and like rice with beans and this and this. And she'd always like tell us about like pairing foods.
Yeah.
And there's a day that I remember I was like, I'm so hungry. I can't stop eating. And granted, I was like, you know, a teenager at that time. So you're growing. But she was like, you need to eat some protein with it. And I was like a vegetarian at the time. So I'm like, well, what do I eat? And so she's like, okay, with that freaking bag of chips that you're eating, guess what I dipped it in?
What?
Cottage cheese.
Yeah, you did.
And so I was like, just sat there and just like ate my chips with cottage cheese. And I was like, oh, I'm actually full now. Like I just had to have like a couple spoonfuls of it. And I was like, oh, I actually feel full.
Cool.
And so that's where I kind of started to notice where I was like, oh, okay, so like protein is going to do this for you. Like eating this makes me feel this way. And with them, I mean, they were always heavier set. So being kind of like obese, I was like, I don't want to be like that. And so honestly, in like that way of them being that way, which again is whatever. My mom had freaking 6 kids. So I'm like, that's going to be hard to come out of that. But, for me to kind of look and be like, that's something I don't want to do. So I was one that was like, I'm going to go outside and run. I'm going to do all these like crazy DVD exercises, like, you know, just anything that I could do to like kind of keep my body moving. And I probably was a little bit more on the vain side of it in the beginning, right? And there's days where I'm like, ooh, I'm just like not going to eat anything. Like I've gone through those points too, where like all these like weird eating habits where I'm like, I need to be skinny, so I need to not eat.
Very 90s.
Oh my gosh, totally. And I was like, ugh. So I look back on her and I'm like, come here, let me give you a hug. Listen, it doesn't got to be that way. Like you can eat and actually lose weight and gain muscle and feel strong and have so much energy. And so like I do think about my littler selves and I'm just like, come here. Like, and I do
love bug.
Because literally nobody was really there telling me, you know, you kind of have to still learn all of that stuff on your own. And, but getting into like the field that I'm in now, I can see just the importance of all of that stuff. Like I had to grow up with and see sort of how not to do it. And in this crazy diet culture, right, that we had during that time with like non-fat, don't put whatever, it's like lean this, everything. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, full fat everything. And like, that's going to like feed your brain.
Right.
And it's like, as long as we know the reason why we're doing it, I think that's when I'm like, sure, this might not taste the best, like this green powder in the morning, but it's the one thing I know I can do in the morning that is going to like be the next right step.
Support
right?
my day.
That one little next step.
Yeah.
And so even if it's like going through nutrition school, I remember them being like, don't tell them like, okay, take this out of your diet, stop eating this. They said, I don't even care. Eat the cookies, eat whatever you're going to do in your day, be totally the same. But on that plate, also add a salad, add your greens, add this. So instead of taking things away, you were adding. And then by the time you were like not noticing, oh, I added that salad or I added this, you're eating a little bit less of the bad thing. Okay, add more water. I don't care what else. You have your 20 sodas in a day, but also drink water throughout your day. Okay. So by adding everything, naturally the bad things kind of just started falling off.
Right.
And then you kind of like, for me, I just crave water. Like I'd rather have my water, I'll drink my mushrooms and my tea.
Right.
And like, that's it. And those are like my favorite things to drink, right? It's just like, okay, green tea, mushrooms, my little mushroom elixir and water. And that makes me happy. I don't need all the other things. And even with like, you know, green juices and all that, like I know I'm supposed to feel like healthy when I drink it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it tastes pretty good. I feel like more vibrant. Then I'm like, oh, but my tummy kind of gets bloated. And so now I notice that. And I'm like, interesting. But if I drink this juice with like ginger in it and this other thing in it, and then you can kind of start to piece it together what's going to feel good for your specific body type, right?
It is so unique to
yeah,
each
and it
person.
does. It becomes like more kind of like a fun science experiment in a way. I'm like, when I eat this, how do I feel? And so I think a lot of people, just to try to get more in tune with your body, so like be really aware of it, right? Like I remember like Lucas would go get cereals and I was like, I will never buy cereal, but if it's in the house, I'm like, give me that dang Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yum.
So I'll be taking a couple bites and I'm like, whoa, interesting. My nose kind of starts to run. I get sniffly. And then I'm like, oh, like my stomach doesn't feel great. Like this isn't a good thing for my body. And I know it. And then I'm like, okay, that's something I like don't even want to feel again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just to bring awareness to it and just being like, okay, well, what does feel good in my body? And like when I eat this, does it give me more energy or do I really just need to take a nap at this point?
Right.
And yeah, so I think seeing food as energy now is like huge. And once I hit 42, I'm like, everybody's just like protein, like creatine, this, that. And I'm like, all right, I get it now. Cause like there's these weird pains in your joints or there's like weird stuff that happens all of a sudden. I like step out of bed and I'm like, oh, that was like a weird, couldn't put all the pressure on my foot for a moment. Like, okay, now that feels better. But it's like, yeah, but just in those moments, I'm like, okay, I should probably maybe be a little bit more hydrated or whatever. It's like, you can always just add something, you know, so add the next best thing. And like, again, we were just saying with that next step, what's the next right thing to do? It doesn't have to all change together all at once.
Right.
You take it in those little bites.
A little bite.
Yeah.
A little bite.
So.
And knowing that her, or like what you perceive as you're scrolling social, her to be, her routine might not be for you and probably won't be fully for you. And that's not a problem. And being able to see that, take what you like or
use it as motivation.
Try one of them at a time and see how it actually feels for you and be honest about how it feels for you. Because juices for you make you feel kind of bloated.
But depends on what's in it, right?
Sure.
And that's the thing, yeah.
And juices for me help my brain get the nutrients it needs. And I add protein, like I add a bunch of juice into whatever I'm eating for the day. And I find that with that clarity, I'm able to avoid foods that are less nutritionally dense, or like I'm able to make decisions based on how I want to feel versus how my brain's telling me it thinks I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like as long as I add ginger to any juice, I'm like, I feel good.
But
I'm like a big old fan of like carrot and ginger together. I'm like, yum. Like, and then you put some kind of citrus, like a lemon or a lime or something like that. Beets, anything with beets. I'm like, gimme. I think that's like what my heart is craving too. Is just like literally my like cardiovascular system. But it gives you like natural energy and stuff like that too, which I'm like, yes, that's the kind of thing that I'm like thriving or like what I'm striving, I guess, for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forget. I'm like, now I kind of want a juice. So I try. Oh, okay.
I have so much juice in my fridge. I should have brought some
berries. Oh yeah, no.
But I realized that like smoothies give me a lot of bloat. And so my sister is a big smoothie person. And she's also a beautiful runner. And she's also all of these things. And I don't love running. I have tried to love running. I am not a pretty runner.
My teeth hurt when I run.
Yeah, my ankles, like everything. I don't love it. And I've tried to.
Yeah.
And like running for her really works and smoothies for her really work. And I don't feel good when I have a big smoothie. Like I do protein powders and stuff on their own separate from my juice.
Yeah.
And she was like, why would you take all the fiber out? And I'm like, that's a fair question. And if a smoothie's fiber feels really good in your belly, awesome. But all of the veggie that I put in my juice, the fiber destroys me.
Yeah. And you're like, do I have an issue with movement? No.
And so
that is fine.
It's just like, take what works. Like maybe 5 a.m. works for you and maybe it doesn't.
I know when everyone's like, be a 4:30 a.m. waker.
Dunk your face in the cold water and then.
No, I'm going to sleep in. My sleep is so much more important too. Like I noticed more than any other food, any other movement, anything that I do that's like these higher up things, right? That like everyone like praises, flippin', go to sleep. Go to sleep when you're tired. And ideally I can wake up without an alarm. I would like, and actually I know when I'm like not drinking coffee and when I'm like not eating past 7, I actually do just wake up before my alarm, even if it's like 5-10 minutes or whatever. And I'm like, interesting. And then on the days that I know I did something like bad the day before, right? I'm like, like waking up, face is all puffy and like, I don't want to wake up. And, but it's so weird what it does to you the next day, right? Like it almost in a weird way, somebody had said this to me one time, cause I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, like drinking so much coffee. And like the next day I just feel way more tired. And she had said it in a way where you have like literally energy reserves, right? And it's like, okay, I have this much energy. Well, I can use all my energy in that day. And when I drink coffee, I'm just borrowing it from the next day. So you have like a finite amount of energy, basically, she was saying. And then if you drink all the coffee, you're drinking the energy drinks, you're doing all the things, you're just kind of continuing like to deplete your next day energy levels.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, okay. And so that's when like B12 shots, would come in for that, where it's your body's natural way to like maybe add a little bit more of its own energy, rather than whatever the heck else is in like energy drinks and whatever. But yeah, it is weird because I'm like, I love coffee, but I also know that like when I drink it, it honestly makes me more tired. I think I just like the ritual of it. I like the smell of it. And like in a way, maybe I wonder if I can just try decaf. It'll do the same thing for me.
Maybe.
Because like just the smell of it, like I said, the ritual of it, holding it.
Like you feel the hormones release in your brain.
Yeah.
And that's when you know you're addicted.
I know. Oh, go on. I need it.
And I'm like, because like I feel it.
Oh, I know. Doesn't it just like make you smile? Like you just like hold it with two of your hands and it's like looking outside, it's all icy and cold. You're like,
Koozie, 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 koozie. Koozie coffee, koozie coffee. Yeah, I know exactly that feeling.
Oh, I know
I had
exactly
that feeling this morning.
You're talking about.
Felt it this morning.
Oh, yeah, babe.
And so just being a Pilates studio in particular and knowing that for so many people, Pilates is the answer, but it doesn't have to be. And
I still tell them that.
Try
even when they
different
come in.
studios too.
Yeah.
And there's room for everyone in the sphere of like Pilates teachers talking to Pilates teachers. There's room for everyone because like I grew up in a space where our clients really appreciate, or like teacher grew up in a space where our clients really appreciate that we have a curriculum. And that we're teaching based on like a progression that's very thought out. And they like to know that, which is something really interesting of like, nope, we've been working on this for 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's why that's why you want them to show up.
And that's why those clients work for precision.
Right.
And there are people at precision, like people that would try precision that are like, why are we doing this again?
Yeah.
That are going to really love and thrive in Pilates ritual. And knowing there's no need for the crazy scarcity competition
at all. Look how many flipping people are here. And I was like, I have such a small studio. I'm like, I can't be taking everybody. Was saying with all my wait lists on now. Hey, but
hey, girl.
But it's so true. Like, and I think that's why when we met, that's why we vibed so hard. Because I was like, yeah, you get it. And people are like, oh my God, they're friends. But like, how can you guys be friends?
That was so funny that people like openly asked us all the time, like, you guys are friends.
Like, how
they're
are
like,
you guys...
where's the shit, Robin?
Exactly.
Like,
oh my God.
They're like, you guys are liars.
Like, oh, you guys are just like fake. You guys are fake friends.
For real
but I was
friends.
like, but she's the person that if anybody I should be friends with, because I'm like, she totally gets where I'm coming from when I'm like, oh, what do you think I should do on this? Or like, I have a question about this. Like, you're the other person. I'm like, yes, I need you in my life because I have to be able to bounce ideas off you. I could talk with Lucas about it. I could talk with other people.
Your partner's not going to get it.
They don't get it.
You're
They'll
like,
listen.
my footwork really didn't flow today, but I'm not quite sure why because Terry's knee was doing this funny thing. They're like, oh, do they have a meniscus? Blah, blah, blah. Right?
Like, that's what I'm saying is like, that should be your biggest
ally. Oh, do they
ally.
have a scar that looks just like this and probably tore their meniscus 10 years ago?
But literally, instructors should be your biggest ally. Like, be able to open and expand and like chat with other, like, even for me, like business owners. Like, yo, like when I talked to your mom, she gave me the best information. And I was like, it wasn't from a place of like, yeah, you should do this, or yeah, like learn your own damn lessons, you know? It was like, listen, I started with like nothing. I had a room and a mat, and like we started here, and I was like, damn, and then you grew it to this, like 20 years in business, like, and people are still like, you're never not busy there. And I'm like, hell yeah. And so I know that it's possible too, right? So she's broken the ground. She's made Pilates like people aware that this is what it is, right? Because that was the first one out here. Like, who the hell knows what Pilates is? Well, check it out. Now there are other studios, but again, they all have a different vibe. It's like, I can't take care of every single, you know, maybe like
type
older person or sports injury person or whatever prenatal person. Like, my style really is a little bit more creative, athletic, like kind of like keep up with the pace, fun flow.
She's cheeky.
But at the same time, I have 75-year-old women in the class, and then all the way till I straight up taught a 9-year-old the other day, right, for her birthday. Like,
I saw that.
So there is like
So
this
cute.
huge age, you know, like it doesn't matter. Like literally the age does not matter. It's like, how is your body moving? And I hope I move the way that my 75-year-old clients move. Mobile spine, super strong core, holding planks. Like, let's do some extra reps. Like, who are you?
Kelly.
And so it's really cool to watch that. But yeah, to have like to know that there is space for everybody out here. I think that's like the main thing, right? It's like, go to another studio, feel what your vibe is going to be, because I love my studio and I love all my clients in it.
Pick your pastry.
You might not be.
I don't
for
like
that
baklava.
Studio. Yeah.
But
I
so
love
many
baklava.
people
Give
love
me them
baklava.
nuts.
Like, I'm not a big baklava gal, but there are so many people that are.
Gosh. Yes,
and like, if you think about a playfulness around not only like studio ownership and like business to business communication, but also your wellness journey. And it won't be for everyone. And Pilates can and theoretically should be for any and everybody at any and every stage of life. However, the best exercise for you is the one that works for you, mind, body, and spirit.
And I'll even tell people that too, and they come in and just, they're doing Pilates. They're like, oh, or this is like maybe the first time they've done it or whatever. Like, I really like running, or I really like this. I'm like, cool. Just going to help you do that thing that you love better, right? Like, and
Pilates helps your everything, but nothing else helps your Pilates.
I know. Isn't that so funny though?
As
like
a
literally
fanatic. I'm like,
just do it.
Nothing else will help it.
But seriously, like runners, like how much can they benefit from that? Like, especially out here, you see runners like all over the place. I'm like, yo, do some Pilates. Like,
it's crazy people.
Because they're like, oh, well, I can't run anymore. My knee hurts. My knee, my hip,
like,
whatever.
Maybe if you strengthen the muscles around your knees, maybe you would feel better.
Like all these other stability exercises that you're probably
hold
not
your
getting.
little like picket fence, like your picket sign.
And it's like I literally like my whole like saying, right, is like, feel better in your body. Like, I want to make people feel better in their bodies. And like, if that is like, oh, I just want to do my weightlifting better. I love lifting weights. It just gives me this high. I love
to
it
lift
so
heavy.
much. But then
I
they're
love
like,
the pump.
oh my God, my back is hurting. Oh my God, I did something to my knee. I'm like, okay, come here. And like, let me help you to do that thing that you want to do even better. Golf, freaking whatever sport, name it, whatever thing, being a mom, right? Like lifting up your freaking kids, like putting them on one side of your hip. Okay, let's balance that out. Like, you know, just, and again, bringing awareness to people's bodies. Like, you probably need to do some more ab stuff. Like, I had a runner and I'm like, great. Like, your legs super strong, not very flexible, you know, core. Oh, can't really lift into an ab curl without shaking.
Your IT band goes 1 degree over the midline and you want to die. So.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. Like the tiniest bit of stretch.
Like,
and I just went to blow their leg over that way. I was like, okay. But yeah, it's like, so we see it right in a different way. And also I think it'd be rude if we just walked up to somebody and said, you need Pilates because your shoulders hiked up and like your turnout is crazy and whatever.
That took me a long time to turn that off in my brain.
Gosh.
Post-training.
Well, it's so hard because you're seeing so many bodies and you want to fix them.
It's like an active click I had to make in my brain because my friend Jess, who isn't a Pilates teacher, she's a real estate agent. Yeah. She, like, we were sitting at a cafe once and she's like, I know that gait is messed up.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not say.
I know,
I'm
and
like,
their shoes and stuff, they're all like smushed
it's
on one
just,
side.
yeah. And I'm just like, it took a couple years for me to let them.
Yeah.
I need to read Mel Robbins' new book. Have you seen it? It's called Let Them.
Oh, nice.
It's like a whole philosophy on life to just like whatever it is, it's a way to liberate yourself.
Hopefully
just let
they'll
them.
find me like when they're ready too, right? They'll find your studio when they're ready. They'll find your website when they're ready.
You
and
just have to trust that, though.
Yeah, and maybe even they got to come back to it a couple times, because I've even had clients that did one session and then went and did something else, and they came back like, oh, my friend's here now, like I kind of want to do this, and then all of a sudden like, oh, I actually really like this, and then they kind of stick. And maybe again, it's for a season, or it's for a reason, right? Or it's for whatever, because they might even just come in, do a little rehab, and then they're like, okay, peace out,
do my things.
Yeah, I'm gonna go do whatever
I feel
else
so
now.
good.
Yeah, and there's people that will fly in from Seattle, or they always have work here or things like that, and they just pop in every once in a while. And they're like, yeah, I do Pilates over at this place, but they do it a little bit different. And I'm like, great. Like, perfect. I want people to hear other cueing. I want people to feel and see other teachers, like, way that they do things. And then, again, take what you like from that. Like, learn a different cue, learn a different breath technique, learn a different, like, anything. And I'm like, ooh, I got to be surrounded by amazing teachers. If I only got stuck with one, it wouldn't be bad, because they're all really friggin' great. But I did get to see a different way of, like, cueing something
the same
or starting
exercise,
it.
totally different.
Why does it feel so different? And even just the energy or the tempo of the count or the da-da-da-da. Like, I still remember, you know, like in training, like certain teachers, I was like, okay, I want to be like them. I want to be like them. And so you pick up little pieces from each person, and then all of a sudden it's like this amalgam of like all your favorite things. And then, but then you're the one that's like presenting it. So then it also has like your little flair to it. And so all of a sudden it's not even yours, but it's like you get to present it in a way that somebody else is able to like receive it. But it had to be that way. Like, it had to be a mix of all that, and you had to stir it up, and you had to be like present it in that way.
You can say a cue as a teacher. Yeah. Like, my favorite story around it is this couple had been coming to the studio for a decade. And I was teaching a class, and they took the same Monday night class every single week for a decade.
Damn.
Like, they were in class. I said, kiss in the glutes, which the cue of any gluteus minimus, whatever, is constantly cued no matter where you're at in a Pilates. Like, what kind of Pilates studio are you at? Yeah. And his face was like shocked. Like, a light bulb went off.
Cool.
And he's like, I understand what kiss in the glutes means. And I'm like, what do you mean?
What were you doing before?
Now? And he's like, well, it's just like when I'm skiing. And I kind of squeeze my buns together a little. And like, men are so funny when they like get connected with their body. It's the cutest thing ever. And like, we use the cue zipper up. Yeah. And there was a different class that I was teaching in, and I was like, one guy's like, what the does zipper up mean? Yeah. And he's like, another guy from across from him, he's like, dude. He's like, yeah, dude. And he's like, you know when you're peeing in the snow? And he's like, yeah. He's like, when you like draw a smiley face? And he's like, yeah. Oh. It's the feeling of when you do the eyes. Oh. Like when you piss the eyes.
Oh my gosh.
He's like, you got to stop it. And pull it back in for a second. And he's like, oh my God. Like, you just don't know.
But that's, I think, what I love about Pilates. Like, the weirdest, like, cues, right? Like, I even remember one. Imagery is where it's at. Like, that, to me, I think there's even a book on it. Like, it might have been a dance book or something. But the imagery part of it, it's so funny to me, because you go, that worked, though. It's so weird.
It did the job.
Yeah, like somebody just was like, okay, you're cracking an egg like in a pan. So you're basically how the egg like falls out and it just like starts to spread. Like, that's like your body just melting.
Be
like,
the egg white.
Yeah, it's like back into the mat or something. And I was like, oh, why did that work? Like, all of a sudden I'm just like an egg white.
I'm melting.
But it's so weird. Like, but they use what is like in their own lives, like that they can relate to, right? Like when they were saying like even like zipper up when you're doing or like imprinting, right? Like that kind of feeling of imprint. It's like when you put on that tight pair of jeans or like whatever that feeling, right? Or that cue kind of is. And I'm like, but that makes sense, because you kind of go and you kind of have to tuck your pelvis a little bit and like draw your belly in. So it is just kind of, it's interesting, these things that you do every single day and how can that like translate into your Pilates? And then the other way, how can everything that you're doing in your Pilates session translate into real life? And that's kind of the idea, is like you want it to be very functional, right? You want to know that, okay, I'm doing this movement, but like why? Like at least me, I always wanted to know like the why behind everything. And so I'm like, okay, I can use, like when we're doing these calf raises, I'm going to have to reach something up on a high shelf. I'm going to stand on my tippy toes and I want to blow up my Achilles, you know? So it's like build the strength into your calves, build the strength into your feet.
Totally.
Holding, like we were saying, like a baby or like whatever, freaking Milo over here, you are going to want to
30-pound toddler.
Like balance on both sides, right? And also know that, yeah, you can hold more than a 2-pound set of weights and like, or just hold the 2 pounds and you can feel the
fire,
right? The fire in the shoulders, but like also be okay with like, maybe I'm gonna put on 2 reds today instead of 1. Like, oh, but it's too heavy. It's like, is it too heavy? You've lifted heavier things. Right. Like, lift your freaking luggage right now, 50 pounds, put it up on the thing. Like, you can do hard things. But yeah, again, how can that like translate into your real life? Because then if they know there's a reason for it, I think they're like, all right, I guess I got to do these freaking rows. I guess I'm going to do this so that I can stay
live
upright.
My life.
So like live your freaking life, and without pain, without injury, ideally, right?
Yeah.
Like it's.
What would your life be like if that little whisper wasn't in your low back?
Yeah.
What would your life be like if there wasn't that little bit of a headache from the tension in your shoulders?
You don't have to.
And it's just like the feeling of what mental, emotional energy was your old car taking from your ability to live your life, and what mental, emotional energy is your discomfort taking from your ability to live your life.
Yeah.
To be more comfortable.
I remember Lucas saying that in his back, he has this like tight just spot, like right between the shoulder blades, like kind of right at the rhomboids, but he like stretching, acupuncture, chiropractic. I'm talking, the boy did everything. And you know, he lifts weights and all that kind of stuff too. So everything's like almost chronically tight in his upper body and hips and legs and all the things, right? Which is like kind of guys.
We are familiar.
And I'm telling you, I start to get him move, just normal exercise.
What if you just moved it?
We're not even focusing on like, you know, protraction, retraction, like anything. We're just doing normal Pilates exercises.
What if you focused on the rest of your body and that just took care of itself?
Isn't that weird? All of a sudden, it's like, he goes, wait, actually, I haven't even thought about that. And like, he goes, well, maybe it's still there. I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah, I'm not constantly thinking about it.
Oh my gosh. And it's not there. And his hips like don't lock up when he's walking anymore. It's like, but to get him, how many years did it take me? Like 10 years to get that boy to finally come in and like do some Pilates. And now he's like, I love it. He'll rep it with my sweater.
Teachers, partners take take the longest to come around.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because they're like, I'm not drinking your Kool-Aid.
I'm like, listen,
I don't want it.
People pay me to do this. Like, just come on. Just
listen,
come in.
I'm a professional. And I've had to
let me check my parking.
Yes, please.
I don't know. Can I? Can you add more?
We're parking?
Yeah, am I allowed?
It's like we can wrap up too. But I don't know if it'll let you. That's a good question. But I've had to start asking if Julian has a physical thing that he's talking about. I'm like, do you need to be heard? Do you just need to like express this?
Yep.
Do you want a solution? Or do you want me to just agree? You know what I mean? Like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for validation? Yeah. Are you looking for support emotionally?
Do you ask him that like right off the bat?
I do now, because my natural inclination with his physical stuff is to fix.
Oh, I was like, fix, help, do it
fix,
right now. What can
and
I
to
do?
Create an action plan.
Yeah, totally.
That he doesn't actually have interest in doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm here when a physical plan feels like you want it.
Yeah.
But, and like, people aren't ready to hear, people aren't ready to hear air quotes it until they're ready to hear it.
Oh yeah.
And I had been telling Julian certain things for years from a Pilates standpoint. And then he had like a near debilitating back situation at work. And then he had to start going, like he was on disability. It was a whole thing.
Yeah. Did he have to go through PT and stuff though?
Yeah. So he goes to his PT and his PT tells him certain things. And I'm like, you mean the thing I've been telling you?
That's a really good idea that PT came up with.
Couple years. You mean the problem is actually the thing I talked about when it very first happened? You mean?
I don't remember us talking about that at all.
And now you've had scans that prove that your measly little Pilates teacher partner
Alexis
knew what it was. And, but we've paid a lot of money and time.
Yeah. That literally just reminded me like Family Guy, like, oh, you gonna write that novel? You just write that novel?
You just
hire up in that voice, yeah. But hey, at least he's healed.
But you found it.
Yeah,
you
in your own way.
You did it. Good for you. And like that's a whole nother podcast of like healing for me.
Yeah.
Of like a big wound of mine is like not being smart enough.
Oh.
Yeah.
Word.
Like your identifier wasn't intelligence.
Yes.
Like, oh, she's
and
so
I don't
smart.
even know why.
Right. You had all the accolades to prove it. I didn't have the accolades even.
I didn't have the accolades.
I didn't even have the grades.
Where's my freaking accolades?
Right.
But weird.
I'm like, that's a whole nother pod. I'm like, that's going to be the next thing you're on for.
Yeah, but I think yours was, because you were still smart, but I think wasn't your brain just like going off on all different like direction stuff? Like you knew what it was that you should do or whatever, and you're just like, I don't really feel, I don't know, the patience for it. What?
It was the ADHD.
Yeah.
It was like actual depression. So it's like my ups would always match with like the beginning of a quarter or beginning of a semester.
Interesting.
And so it would look like I was doing a really good job, but I was sleeping 3 hours a night. And then I'd have my crash and like toward the middle to end of the semester. And I'd be like, well, Lex would be really smart if she just tried harder or if she just kept trying. Or like didn't stop when things got hard. But I didn't talk to anyone about it either. Right. I just thought everyone did this.
Suffer in silence.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just down in my basement bedroom until 3 a.m. And you know what I mean? Like working on my reading assignment because the ADHD is making so I can't read the thing so that I get a C on the reading quiz. So it's just very interesting.
That like makes me so sad. I think I don't know. Honestly, I feel like in school though, a lot of what it was like this memorization part of it. Mm. And I remember like going through and like, okay, memorize this, like, okay, this 5 da 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 da, and like I'd have like different acronyms or like different, songs even for certain things. Legit, after I took that test, you better believe it's not in my head anymore. I was like, I gotta make some space for something new because you learn a whole nother thing and you have to do a whole nother thing. But then, and that was what was so hard is at the end of the year, it's like, okay, now we do a whole comprehensive, and I'm like, oh no, I gotta find all those files again. So
you didn't tell me I would need to know it later.
Like I know for a fact it was so much memorization because I still can't. I mean, I can kind of tell you why the sky is blue, right? Like the whatever the particles
powerhouse of the cell,
like in the sky. What? I know. I'm like, what's a mitochondria? I know what it looks like because I had to like draw it, and I made mine with like Twizzlers. It was like this, like in the inside, right? And so it kind of has like the little like things. And I remember because you had to like, okay, make it out of something, right? So I like did all mine with like candy, and like the inside of a cell, and like this and this, and like it was actually really fun. But I still, I'm like, what does it do? Now I know because
I remember the coloring.
But it's like I liked the art and creativity part of it. Like how can I do that again? But yeah, like school for me was tons of memorization. That's why I think math was also kind of hard because then it was always like, oh damn, it's like a different problem. And I was like, I liked the whatever is it? Not geometry. Geometry was okay too. That was kind of like more art.
Trig?
But I guess it was like, no, I don't even think I ever got that far. Let's keep it real. I got to like algebra 2 and I was like, C+, that's pretty good. Like I graduated.
Right.
And then I'm like literally never going to use that again. Like I will go on to my, calculator to still add things. Like I'm like, I don't want to bother really. That's also why I have a bookkeeper and thank the Lord.
Thank you, the Ellie. Lord Jesus Christ.
Yes. I'm like, I need that in my life though. But that person taking care of that thing for me does free up again so much space so that I can focus way more on the creative teaching and the thing that people are actually coming for. Which I think is the teaching, but also probably some, community and stuff in it too.
There's lots.
But also, random thought. So remember when I picked the bumblebee? Yes. I want to do that again. I want to pick
I almost brought my stupid cards today. I thought of you.
I need a new animal.
I'll have to swing them by for you.
Yeah, I want to just have like a day, like even at my studio, we can like sit on the mat or something, like the infrared mat. And then we'll
Friday
just do a card
morning, I think you have classes.
Till like 12.
Meet up with Hannah. And I have her interview, but theoretically after I could swing by.
Be right there.
Perfect. Okay. I was like, I think that we technically go.
Did we talk about that when you said 1 o'clock? Or Friday 1 o'clock? Or what time would it be?
I think I might have offered you that time too.
Or maybe this was, I think I had somebody else. Maybe Cherie is going to do my plasma thing or something. I don't know, but anyways, I'll be there still.
We will play it by ear. We will figure out a time to get you a new spirit animal for the year.
Okay, yes, because honestly, that carried me through. I was like, whoa, bumblebee, whoa, honeycomb. Oh my God.
I'm a badger this year.
So cool. Okay, how do you resonate with that?
It's interesting because the message in the book.
That seems more aggressive.
I know. Well, I think of her as very, like, I know that people see badgers as like a very aggressive thing, but I see them as like a really cute little snuggly. Like, I want to snuggle a badger, even though I know you're not supposed to snuggle a badger.
Like, come here. She's like,
she's like, don't love me.
Scratch your face.
Right. She's going to kill me. But the message in it was like, timing is not up to you. And you have seen how the tighter you hold on to your timing and the tighter you hold on to your idea of what's going to happen, the harder it's going to be internally for you to balance things back out. And that was so exemplified in 2024 for me. It was so violently obvious of like, wow, I've been people pleasing. I've been stuck in perfectionism. I've been all of these things for everyone else and doing what I'm air quotes supposed to do. And I'm not okay. And I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And
So
the
let's do it
Badger
different.
speaks to that very vehemently, but also a lot of trust. Just trust. Write it down, feel the feelings, let it go.
Ooh,
burn it.
love it.
Like do the next right step.
Yeah.
Like take the next right step that feels aligned for you and trust that what is for you will come to you, this or better.
Yes, that
because
or better. Like you gotta
if
throw
I
that in there.
locked in on the very specific way that it had to be, then I'm also closing off to any creative possibilities that the universe has for me. And I have shut off my connection to source in that way. So this year is kind of about like getting good at the boring things or the things that my brain doesn't like to do, like resetting my house every night, but frees up but frees up so much mental, emotional, physical discomfort, stress, energy by not doing it. And
now
all
you're
of
just thinking about a dirty house while you're up there. Like,
dirty house, dirty finances, dirty whatever it is in the background of my mind of like, this is out of alignment, this is out of alignment, everything behind the curtain is out of alignment, but here you are. And so getting
and for who? Like it's like,
for
no,
who?
wait, if I just fix all this stuff on my own, like
sake,
exactly.
For who? Like
but that's another thing I think as I was getting older, like that it made me just feel like, oh my God, I don't have to like care about what other people are really thinking. Like if I do this next thing, right? Like, if it's going to hurt somebody or whatever, like that's obviously not what we want. But
nothing immoral or illegal.
Like, wait a minute. I am going to go to the grocery store with no makeup on. And like, I feel okay about that, you know, like, or I am going to grab that second cookie from there. And like, I'm going to be
delicious
and I'm going to be okay with that. Like, and I'm not going to care about who's judging me or who's eyeballing it or whatever. Like, I feel like I'm always too, like whenever there's like a big spread, like at a party and everyone's like, and like nobody really ever tries to eat it. And I'm like, oh, I'll be the first one. And then everyone kind of
that you and I are always the first ones to place. We're like, thank you.
This is for both of us.
You and I both do that. We're just like, got it. Like a little Tonka
but I was
truck.
like, it's like the person spent so much time, money, all that stuff. And I'm like, let me dive in and like make sure it's like worth it. Yeah, because then they're like, great, I just spent like $400 on all this food and nobody ate anything. And like, that's not a good feeling either. Someone's like, I got this.
Just eat the food. Oh no.
I'm a really good friend like that.
I can help you.
I'll eat all your food.
Help. But the Badger also like has a den, like a little burrowed den inside, and I want more people in my house. That's been a very like seedy underbelly thing for me, a very like vulnerable thing of like never having people in my space. My story was I don't like people in my space, and that isn't actually true. Yeah, and it's because it was out of alignment with everything else I showed everyone. And so first step was like host Thanksgiving. Like what's the bigger vision of who I want to be? And I want a really big cozy home for the sake of being able to fill it with more people.
I always love being a host. I love that feeling too. I'm like, welcome, here's a beverage,
and I'm
sit
just
on down.
Right, and I just want to learn how to do that. And like
that might be my server brain still
step
in there,
one.
but.
Sure. And even but that's a skill. It's
Oh.
a skill you acquired and you honed. And hosting Thanksgiving this year was very cathartic for me because it's very close to what I'd like to be doing as my air quotes higher self. And it's something that she does every year. But it's something that I didn't feel safe in doing until now, kind of thing, because there was so much crap all over my house. And so
it's hard when you got two kids freaking running around too, and
but
your job and all
it was
that other
more
stuff.
than that though. Like
you
it
knew
was
it, though. You could tell the difference,
I know the difference between the toys that are in my living room right now because my toddlers dumped a whole bucket of whatever on my carpet. But it's different than I've shoved things in a corner so that you won't see them. You know, like just that feeling of like, what if they open that closet? And I don't have an excuse.
Ooh, dang, what does that really mean?
Right. What if they open that?
What's in that other closet?
What's in that other closet? And where does that tightness feel for you? And so being able to have people in my space, like to have people over for my birthday was a really big thing for me, of like just getting comfortable with people in my space. And like the home you have right now is really great. The home you have right now is enough because you are enough, because you have manifested this thing. 10-year ago you, 12-year ago you living in a 400 square foot studio apartment, you know, like that's where I was living 100%. In this cute little place in Browns. And like, I want a partner that loves me wholly, and realizing that I was never going to be the person for the guy I was dating at the time. And he was never going to be my person, and I was never going to be his. We were just too different. And that wasn't bad. And finding someone who loved a way that I received it, and that who received the love in the way I gave it. So like manifesting Julian, manifesting, like actually by accident, I manifested Eloise. We were not like, we at the end of 2019, none of us knew what was coming. And so I made this vision board of like, oh, someday I'll read on the couch with my daughter. And I have like a little pink kid with like
I manifested
an olive shaded woman on the couch reading. And I was like, oh, that's cute. I really like that. And then of course COVID happens and all of those things. And it was like, hey, our wedding has been postponed 5 times. Like we can't plan a wedding in this, but we can start a family. So like at the end of 2019, there was no way that I could have anticipated that I would manifest Eloise, that I would and we got pregnant right away. And she's this pink little sassafras. And it's like the fact that she didn't end up with my skin tone like Milo did. Like just I manifested so specifically this little person. Whoa. And then there was a moment when I was sitting in a chair with my little tan sweater and I was reading, and then she came up and grabbed a book and read with me. And I was like, take a picture.
And you felt it right then.
Yeah. And Julian took a picture. It's like, wasn't exactly the same scene, but like we're sitting in a chair reading. She's got her like crazy hair and she's pink. Oh. And it's just, I don't know where I was going with that, but just what you have is enough. The visions you hold are yours, even if you feel like it's been done before. And it's like coming to Spokane, there were other Pilates studios. It doesn't matter if someone else has done it. Why does anybody
want to train with me? Like, why would anybody want to come here, you know? And I'm like, I can just teach what I know. And that's it. Like, I built the thing that I would want. And that's the other thing is like, you don't have to build it for anybody else. Like, whatever your dream is, whatever your vision is of a thing that you want to do, like you're building it kind of for something that you want, right? It's always like a need or something that you would actually like. And then when other people like it, you're like, cool. Cause like I have to be in that space every day. So I want to make sure there's plants in there. I want to make sure that it's bright and light. I'm going to make sure my Nespresso coffee machine is there. I'm going to make sure I have snacks and like things that I feel like I would want if I went somewhere. And that like, since I have to be there all the time, I have like at my like beck and call. Right. And yeah, I feel like if it's just I don't know, I forgot now where I was going. It's been 2 hours now. My brain is going to be gone. But I forget where I was going with it. That I read this out.
That it was it doesn't matter if someone else has done it before.
Yeah, it's just yours, right? So no matter what, it's what would you like? What do you want to see in that space? How do you want to feel when you're in your space? And then if someone says anything, you feel so secure because it's like, well, it doesn't have to be for you.
Yeah. But if you create it for someone else and someone criticizes it, the feeling of like, well, I thought of everything that they would want, you know, like creating for someone else. You could just
go over there. You'll probably like that one.
I actually just wrote, it's funny, and like recorded a little thing. Cause like the launch of the content, like as I was editing different videos, I know we got to wrap this up soon. I'm so sorry.
Well, I don't know. I wonder if I can just do it again.
Maybe.
But now I don't know the number.
Yeah.
We'll
do this one last thing and then we will wrap it.
Okay.
But I like recorded a little thing this morning before you came about exactly this, because I like plotted out everything I thought everyone else would need, or like what would do well in the algorithm with this whole like content launch and all of those things. Like what does everyone else need? The video, the podcast, the topics, the people, like what's going to do well.
Yeah.
But then as I'm like editing the videos, I'm like, it's fine. It's good, but it lacks something, and I can't publish this. I don't want to. And so I've taken a couple of weeks. I'm like, well, right into a launch. I've taken these videos that I thought I was going to publish and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I have them sitting there and I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And realizing that I had slipped back into perfectionism because I wanted the analytics. Like what's going to do well in the algorithm. I researched the crap out of it. I know what's going to do well. And what content do they want if they're looking for this thing?
Or like murder. No,
right. Or just whatever it is. And like, and had to shift back of like, I've been hiding all of these things. I've been hiding the fact that I gained 30 pounds because I was on medication trials. And like, I haven't wanted to show my whole body on camera. Cause it's like, that's not a Pilates body. You know,
says who though, right?
I know,
but isn't that crazy?
In my brain, with the training I received, as amazing as it was, I ended with these wounds of, if it doesn't look a certain way, it's not right. And that's not to say that that's how it was communicated directly, but that's how I received it. And what if I just started kind of fresh of, what if I stopped hiding? What if I just created for me and the people who want it will find it? And what if I moved my body and recorded it when I felt like it and it could help someone? What if, I'm like, what if instead of creating what I think others need, I created what I need for myself and then created in collaboration with my lovely humans?
It's just so funny because it's that simple. Like, why do you have that need or that, idea to do certain things? I'm like, I just want to move, like what feels good for me. Like I'll literally like hop on the reformer. I'm like, okay, have to be even more creative than I was yesterday. And then it's like, sometimes I just go back to something I've already done. And then we just focus a little bit more on like a different thing, or I'll use like, a different way to start the class or something, or the same class, different prop, like anything that can like kind of switch it up. But what does my body need? I really want to do extension today. So like, we're going to focus on that. I really want to challenge balance today. So like, that's what we're going to do. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll ask people like, what's your favorite exercise? Or what do you guys want to do? They're like, whatever. I'm like, okay, so they don't really care. They just kind of show up.
You're not being helpful.
They're just like showing up. And I'm like, they just want something. Right. Yeah. And so, Lucas, I feel like, who's like stretching, foam rolling, anything but like basically hard work. Just give me some stretches. And there's the days I'm like, I can't do it. I just have to do this like challenging class. People are showing up for 50 minutes to do this thing for themselves. And then there was a day that I was like, you know what? I just kind of want to like end in like the last 10 minutes and like on the foam roller. Yeah. So we did the foam roller and stuff, and people were like, oh my God, that was amazing. We should do that every time. And I was like, damn it. So you guys do like the foam rolling, and you do like the stretches. Like you do say, Lucas is like, I'm telling you, people.
But if it was all the time, they wouldn't.
Exactly. And so I'm like, I just have a feeling of like, hey, what's the next thing? But it's what do I need for that day? And that's just what they're going to get, because that's all I know. So again, it's not like, oh, well, everybody else wants this. Like there's a day I tried to do jump board and everyone was like, nope. And I went, oh shit, okay.
Well,
I guess
scrap it.
I guess we're taking those jump boards off. Dang, guys, I didn't know you felt that like, that
strongly
crazy
about anything.
I was like, oh my goodness. But that's like the only time if there's like they really don't want to do something like jump board's different, right, than like a regular reformer class. But
sure.
But yeah, I was just like, okay, well, tell me how you really feel. Dang.
Yeah.
I guess I have to literally think of a whole brand new class, right? Because again, I was just practicing that for the past 30 minutes.
Cool. Last but not least, just really so we can get you back to your parking meter. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
It's definitely over. So whoever's giving me that ticket right now, you better stop.
What fuels you?
Oh my gosh. Kind of like even hard to think of because I'm doing like the same thing every single day. I think going into my business and the whole reason I keep showing up every day that's actually giving me the energy to like get there. They are my clients right now. Like, and I think my close friends right now that are able to be like, yes, keep going. And then my clients, when they keep showing up, I'm like, okay, well, if you guys are going to be here, then I'll freaking show up. Like I'll be open on New Year's Day or Christmas Eve and like all these things. So I think at the moment, at the present time, my clients are fueling me to keep coming in. Like the fact that there's wait lists, the fact that they're telling their friends, the fact that they're bringing in their kids and their husbands and all of that. It's fueling me in a way to not only be like, yay, my business is doing good, but like you're kind of like, well, I am like making a difference. Like I'm actually like the thing that didn't used to exist before is here now, and it's helping a lot of people. Yeah. So it does help me to like show up every day knowing that like they're going to get something out of it. And there's always the background people too. Like Lucas is there as like support system for me too. And I know that like I neglect him sometimes too, right? And like having to go to the studio all the time, right? Like literally working 6 days a week, like most like days, and then having to go back in at night. Like there's a time where I'm like, yes, I'm ready for this growth, and it's now, so that not only can my business grow, but now I'm ready to grow in like other ways too, right? Like building a stronger relationship with Lucas, building a stronger relationships with my close friends that I actually, again, can get deeper into conversations with and not have to like be, you know, superficial and stuff about anything anymore. And yeah, so I would just say at the present moment, my clients are fueling me, and it's enough to like keep me going every single day. That's going to wake up at freaking 6:30 in the morning. But also Alpha Brain really helps. Green tea,
Shout out.
matcha. Yeah. I'm like Black Label. Hey, that honestly is like the best. Like it gives me like cognitive function. I feel like I can like, again, cue better. And it's like one of the like one supplements that I just feel like works my brain really good. And it's supposed to help with like vision and like all this other stuff. I'm like, yes, please. But so, you know, on that level, but yeah, so I think that's where I'm at. So we got to pick my animal. That's the next thing that's going to be on the list.
Yes, we'll prioritize that in the next week for sure.
You will know my animal.
You know your animal for next time.
Yay.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me.
Thank you. This is so fun.
It is fun. I love seeing you can just we can chat, right?
And then you're like,
What an amazing time with the inspiring Tiana Ferret. Her wisdom, resilience, and ability to embrace life's transitions with intention reminds us that our challenges can be catalysts for transformation. If this episode spoke to you, please subscribe to Women When Fueled, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little extra encouragement today. Your support means the world. It helps this community grow and ensures that more women can hear these life-changing conversations. To keep the chat going, connect with me on Instagram at Women When Fueled, or visit itslexbutler.com for more resources, updates, and ways to fuel your mind, body, and spirit. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing this space, and for showing up for yourself. Remember, you are worthy of your dreams, capable of greatness, and deserving of the incredible life that you're ready to create. Until next time, stay fueled, stay inspired, and keep moving forward. You're doing an amazing job, and I can't wait to connect with you again soon.